So we're going to do chapter 8 here, real estate taxes. And let's dive in. In this chapter, we're going to describe differences between the general real estate tax and something called the special assessment tax. We're going to explain the taxation process as well. So, what is taxation? We could begin our highlights here. Taxation is the power of the state, federal, state, and local governments, right, to impose tax liens to fund the operation of government. And tax liens have priority over all other liens. There are two types of property taxes. You have your general real estate tax. This is the tax that everybody pays when you own a home or property. It's called ad valorem in Latin. The ad valorem tax is the general real estate tax that everybody pays. In Latin, ad valorem means according to value. So this tax is based on the value of your property. That's how your general real estate taxes are determined. They're based on the value of the property, in part, anyway. Um, you have the tax you you have the tax percentage that the politicians need in order to run the municipality and the state. Uh, so they have those numbers that they can play with a little bit too. Um, so they multiply that tax rate by the value of your assessed value of your property to figure out what the taxes are that you're going to pay. So even though they say the general real estate tax is known as the ad valorem tax because it's based on the value of your property, well, it is the assessed value, and they multiply the assessed value um, by the tax rates to figure out what the taxes are. And the politicians are the ones that determine what that rate is. So it's not entirely based on the value of the property. So a special assessment is also a tax. Anytime you hear special assessment, when we were talking about condominiums and such in a previous chapter, we talked about how the condo association can give a special assessment to everybody that lives in the complex if they want to do some general improvements. Um, it works the same way. It's like a little mini government in condominiums, but special assessment is basically a tax. It's an improvement tax, not for improvements that the homeowner does to their property, but the the improvements that your politicians want to do in your neighborhood. They will impose this special assessment tax only on the homes in the area that could stem to benefit from those improvements that they're going to do. And you have to pay them. But once it's paid, once it's paid off, then that tax goes away. It's just put in place to fund their special pet projects that they want to do in your neighborhood so that they could then say, oh, see what I did for their neighborhood. And when it comes to reelection time, they could be like, oh, look at all the things I did to the neighborhood. They forget to remind you that this was a tax that they created to fund it as well, and they force imposed that tax on all the residents that lived in that area to pay for it, which they may or may not have wanted to begin with. All right, but you still got to pay it because you got to pay your taxes, right? So it's not, but it's important to remember this is not a tax for improvements that the homeowner does to their property. It's a tax for the improvements that the politicians want to do in your area that it's imposed on the homeowners who live in the area that could stem to benefit from those improvements, who will enjoy their improvements. Okay.
And this is yearly, right? Correct?
It's whenever they come up with one. You may not have a special assessment unless the politicians decide, hey, we want to do some improvements in your area. We're going to come up with an idea that they want to redo something, maybe change the lights, put up those old world street lights along your road and redo the sidewalks and, other stuff. Where do they get the money for these things? Or they want to build a park in your neighborhood or something, they'll issue a special assessment to all the homeowners who live in that area. It's a one-time tax. It's not annually. It's just a one-time tax that you need to pay. If you can't pay it all at once, you could pay it over a period of time, over years even. Okay,
Okay, thank you.
until it's paid off. So sometimes when we're selling houses, we gotta not just know what the general real estate tax is that everybody needs to pay, but we gotta find out if there's any outstanding special assessments that have not yet been paid off. Okay. Okay, everybody got those highlights there?
I'm good.
Got it.
All right, so the ad valorem tax, that's the general real estate tax. In Latin, it means according to value. It's based on the value of the property being taxed. So this is the property tax everyone who owns real estate pays. It funds the operation of governmental agencies. Certain residents may take annual deductions from the property taxes, and certain real estate is exempt from real estate taxation. So that general real estate tax goes to fund the municipalities. It goes to fund the state, counties, the municipalities. There's 5 types of municipalities in New Jersey. We have cities, towns, townships, boroughs, and villages. It goes to fund the school districts, the local public elementary and high schools, publicly funded junior colleges and community colleges. They should have wrote in here. It also goes to give money to our Ivy League colleges that have huge billion-dollar funds, yet they still are collecting our tax dollars for some reason. I guess it ends up being a big slush fund kickback to the politicians who feed them the taxpayer dollars. These colleges then go back and they give their money back to support their preferred candidates. And who are their preferred candidates? The ones that throw money at them all the time. And then if the opposition doesn't agree with giving them that money, they say they're against education for your children. Those mean people. So park districts, which is something I harp on that a bit, because if you actually look at the breakdown of your tax bill, your property tax bill, about half of it or more than half of it goes towards a category called education. Does it actually get to the classroom, that money? Hell no. Park districts, forest preserves, and recreational districts, even though they created new taxes to cover those things, well, your property tax is supposed to be covering it. See, this is what our politicians do. Then they come up with new taxes. They put on the election ballots. They say, oh, we're going to come up with a new tax. We'll call it the Green Space Expansion Program. And it's to preserve open space and parkland and stuff like that. And I mean, who could be against that, right? And then if you actually dived into the details of it, it's to pay people so that they don't further develop on their property. So if you got somebody that they got their house, they got everything developed, they're not planning on developing any further on it, it's like the payoff. And it's usually a payoff to rich people. It's not people with small lots. It's usually people with larger ones, So people are getting payoffs on this stuff, including the government. I know my town in Linden, we got next to the high school, there's a big open piece of grassland where the ROTC practices, Well, they accepted money from the Green Space Expansion Program with the agreement they wouldn't develop on it. So they basically sold the rights to develop on their own on the city property to get a big payoff. And now they want to expand the high school over to that and build it over that space. So because they are now going to violate the terms that they agreed to, they're going to have to pay fines and penalties to the Green Space Expansion Program. But they don't care, because these are just politicians, and how are they coming up with the money to pay for this? Where's the money coming from to pay those fines so that they could do the development where they already got a payoff from the state's program? from the taxpayers. They'll just raise your taxes to cover it. You know, I brought this stuff up when I was running for city council in my town. I was like, this is such nonsense. This is BS. They get money from the state programs. What did they do with that money? And now they're going to build on it. So now they're going to get fined. So they're going to have to pay even more money back. And then where are they going to get that from? Us, the taxpayers. You know, it's a, it's a, it's a wonder how these politicians stay in office. Anyway, there's also money that goes to water, sanitation, and drainage districts. Okay, so let's just highlight that ad valorem is Latin for according to value, and it is the tax, that's the general tax that everybody has to pay. Yeah, that's the ad valorem tax. All right, so where does the majority of our property taxes go? It goes to schools, like I just explained, or a category called education. Uh, here's an example of education tax money that's often getting wasted. You know, I mean, we know where the money goes. You know, it goes to the teachers' unions. That's not to the teachers. It goes to the teachers' unions. Does it get to the classroom? Some of it, but not by far the majority of it. So where the hell does all this money go? You know, some of it gets kicked back to politicians, elections, funds, and such like that, you know, so that they could continue getting more money next year for this category called education. But does it make the education system any better? In New Jersey used to have a great education system, but it seems like the more money we throw into it, the worse it gets. Can anybody explain that one to me? We don't, when you can't read or write, we got issues, you know. When you got people graduating from high school that still can't read or write and they graduate with honors, you got issues. You know, technology is not the answer for everything. And we got, let's say, everybody's seen that one story about the girl now who's suing her school district because they graduated her with honors. In the meantime, she doesn't know how to read or write. All she sees is a jumbled bunch of letters and, you know, squiggly lines because she was never taught how to read or write. She was able to pass her courses as she got into the high school and such because she just used the applications on her cell phone and the computer to do it for her. Yeah, I mean, she's clever, but it sucks that she's being deprived of her education. You know, and is that where our taxpayer dollars are really going? Unfortunately. So here is a documentary that was actually done quite a few years back already, and not much has changed in the state with this. Uh, and not much has changed in the state with this. So let's take a look. I'll give you a little teaser of this. Here's a link to the movie. It was based on New Jersey. They use New Jersey as ground zero, but this crap goes on all over the country. Is a documentary about the education system and how our tax dollars are being wasted. It's called The Cartel Movie. And this guy, the producer, he would actually view it in your local movie theater if he'd get at least 30 people that wanted to see it. He would arrange with a local movie theater to play it, and he would show up there and answer any questions people had. And it's funny, I went to the one in Menlo Park, and then some of the teacher unions showed up. And they started, when he went to the questions and answers segment at the end of the movie, where he had people in the crowd asking him questions and he was answering them, they were trying to shout him down. You know, why would you do that? Why would you need to silence people's voices? You know, why did teacher unions send people there to do that? You know, I was there. I witnessed it, you know. Pretty interesting. Well, here it is. It's the Cartel Movie. You could actually watch it for free on Tubi TV now. If you guys like, I could share that link with you. Here, let me go. The Cartel Movie. There were other ones that also used New Jersey as the ground zero for their documentary to base it on. Saving Superman, I think, was another one. I never seen that one though. But this one I seen. It's actually pretty good. Here's a little preview of it. The funny thing is, watch how some of these politicians talked back then and watch how they talk right now. Okay, they've changed a lot. A lot of these, they talk to Republicans, they talk to Democrats, they talk to teacher unions, they talk to parents, they talk to private schools, they talk to public schools, they talk to charter schools, they talk to the parents, they talk to the students in this documentary. It's really thorough. They talk to the teacher unions themselves, and it's funny how you could even see the Democrats they talk to here. They're talking about how it's a shame how the money's being used or wasted and everything. But today, if you were to look at it, they all of a sudden flip their script on it. They just want more money for this stuff, and they're not really arguing this stuff anymore. It's just more money, more money, more money. Take a look.
It is a crime. It's not taxpayers who's going to destroy America. It's public education if we don't do something about it.
My neighborhood is calling. Their equipment is destroyed. There's graffiti everywhere.
Teacher tells the parent, "Oh, this is a good school." When I said, "Lady, your kid can't read or add two and two." What do you mean it's a good school?
Education is a business that has a monopoly. When you have a monopoly, you can do whatever you want.
It is virtually impossible to fire a teacher. We had a teacher who didn't have good control over his temper and punched kids, slap kids regularly.
You take a stance and you're going to lose your job. They play dirty because there's so much money involved. In Newark, for example, we have, I think, well over 400 administrators making more than $100,000 a year. It's wasteful and needs
to. Administrators today, they're making more like $400,000 a year, so it didn't get any better.
Stop.
I used to wonder not why parents weren't protesting, but why aren't parents lighting fires and breaking windows?
It's not about doing something for the kids and having better schools. It's about getting elected.
Corruption is out there, rampant, pervasive, institutionalized. People should be in jail. You can't lose $1 billion and not be able to explain how you spent that money or where the money went.
It's a bad thing. It's a simple truth. It's not very long.
This was years ago.
There's no audio.
To do with her job.
Like that, but before Joe Clark.
Before the bills were all back.
Yeah, exactly.
It's sad. It's a sad story. So
I don't know if it's me on my end, but I couldn't hear her.
You couldn't hear it all?
No.
Like
half time we heard, after half we not hearing.
Well, you know what? You're probably hearing through the speakers, and it probably came through all muffled out. You guys got to tell me these things when you're not hearing them, so that I could.
I said it, but it didn't. I guess you couldn't hear me.
I couldn't hear you. No, I couldn't. All right, here. Let me change. There's a setting here I could hit for sharing my computer audio. All right, here. I'll rewind that. I'll play that for you guys if you didn't hear it.
It is a crime. It's not terrorists who's going to destroy America. It's urban public education if we don't.
Can you guys hear it now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, much better.
Okay. So if you can't, yeah, it's a Zoom setting. I don't know. So if that ever happens again, and then you're talking to me, and I can't hear you saying it, just send me something in the text message in the chat window, and maybe something will pop up on my screen that I could see. Okay, here, we'll play this one more time.
Don't do something about it.
I don't know where the money's going. The equipment is destroyed. There's graffiti everywhere.
The teacher tells the parent, oh, this is a good school. When I said, lady, your kid can't read or add 2 and 2. What do you mean it's a good school?
Education is a business that has a monopoly. When you have a monopoly, you can do whatever you want.
It is virtually impossible to fire a teacher.
We had a teacher who didn't have good control over his temper and punched kids, slapped kids regularly.
You take a stance and you're going to lose your job. They play dirty because there's so much money involved.
In Newark, for example, we have, I think, well over 400 administrators making more than $100,000 a year. And it's wasteful and needs to stop.
That's what I was talking about. With that, you got administrators making $200,000 and $400,000 a year or more today.
I used to wonder not why parents weren't protesting, but why aren't parents lighting fires and breaking windows?
It's not about doing something for the kids and having better schools. It's about getting elected.
Corruption is out there. Rampant, pervasive, institutionalized. People should be in jail. You can't lose $1 billion and not be able to explain how you spent that money or where the money went.
It's a sad saying, but they've been pimping our children for a very long time.
We've got to think of some other solutions. Throwing money at the problem isn't working. That as an option is coming to an end.
They give respect to these kids, and they show that they care about them.
Kids in failing situations, dangerous situations, we need to give them immediate relief.
Yeah, I have kids who have graduated with diplomas from Camden High and Woodrow Wilson who don't know how to read for 12 years. What did you do with that child? What did you do with the money?
It's just like, you ever seen that movie, Lean on Me?
Yeah.
It's just like that. It's just like that, but before Joe Clark.
Before the baseball bat.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a pretty powerful documentary. If you get a chance, watch that. And keep in mind, that was years ago, and nothing's changed. It just got worse. We've been throwing more and more money at education system, or a category called education. And where's the money going? It's a question we're still asking. We're throwing more and more money at it, yet the education's getting worse. Go figure. New Jersey used to be one of the top places in the country. But it's still falling. Which is it's a shame. Especially when you start removing the the requirements, the testing on the teachers themselves. They don't even need to pass these proficiency tests anymore. Yet they're expected to teach our children. That's kind of ridiculous. And they remove the requirements for testing on children too. That's pretty bad because the arguments that they give, apparently testing what you've taught what they taught the children in school is racist. So they remove those those testing altogether. It's a silly argument.
When one thing I found that recently in school, that teacher are in place of writing a questions, they are downloading from the Google. So students are also downloading answer from Google.
Oh, not even creating their own.
Yeah. So teachers are not creating their own question. So they are downloading question from the Google. So a student is downloading answer from Google because even student know that what question is coming.
Yeah, I witnessed a lot of this stuff. I actually, my ex-wife actually, she was a teacher for years, and then she became a school principal, a vice principal, then principal and administrator, and we've seen it all. She actually even worked for the state at one time, auditing schools to see if they were going to be taken over by the state. And some of them are just horrible. All right, let's see. So this is another tax. The tax, remember I told you about the school in my city. They wanted to preserve that open space, so they sold the rights off so they get a big payoff from this green space expansion tax that was created. And they actually put it on the public ballot several years back, to create this tax. You know, anytime you go to vote, you know how they put those public option questions on the side when you go voting in primaries or for president or what have you, or governors, they put those public option questions on the side. Unless you're absolutely positively sure you know the details of what that's about, I suggest you always vote no against it. You know, that was like when New Jersey first voted for those the Green Space Expansion Program. I think at the same time they voted on some kind of a bail reform, which then started letting criminals out, kind of like they did in New York. And then right away you were seeing people getting, crime spiking up. People were getting released back out on no bail, cashless bail, turning around, going out and doing crimes against people they were put in jail for. All kinds of nonsense like that. Don't always vote no on those public option questions unless you know what it's about. Like this one, the Green Space Expansion Program was to create a new tax to preserve open space and parkland. Oh, that sounds great, right? So it's a new tax that they create, but the devil's in the details. They're also allowed to raise that tax anytime they want. Our Governor Murphy just raised it, by the way, again. Without going back to the public. So these are spineless politicians that don't want to create the tax and then have the finger pointed at them because they created it later on when it starts backfiring. So instead they put it out there for the public, and then they word it in a fancy way that sounds really nice. And people are like, hey, who's against open space and parkland and preservation of that open space, you know? And you basically voted to create a new tax. To raise your taxes. You voted to raise your own taxes. That's basically what it was. So you don't need money to preserve open space. It's a payoff to people, not to build on any further on their land. It's money that goes to slush funds. Where does all this money go? Who's managing it? You know, then they raise the taxes on it again. So this is just another example of that. So the Green Space Expansion and Preservation Program, that's what it was called, was a tax to preserve parkland and open space, buying land and rights to others' lands to prevent further development. So it's basically payoffs to rich people who got big pieces of property that they already have fully developed, all their houses, their barns, their stables for their horses and all that stuff. And then they buy out, are you done doing the development? We'll give you a boatload of money so you don't do any more development on your property. You know, why do you need to do that? You know, there's no reason for that. So this is how it was sold to the taxpayer on the ballots at the public option questions during an election several years back. In some cases, they do have beautiful parks, and some of the money went to that stuff. In others, the land looks like what you're about to see on the next slide. In others, rich people were just given money. Even municipalities were given money not to build further on property, purchasing their rights to make further improvements. So now it's in the deeds, you know, you can't build any further on the property, otherwise you'll violate the Green Space Expansion Program, and payoff that was made, and then you're going to have to pay it back, and then some penalties on top of that. But usually it's already built up to its maximum, and so it's just a taxpayer giveaway. Here's an example of one on Inman Avenue and Featherbed Lane, where they meet. You guys ever see this in that intersection on Inman Ave and Featherbed Lane? There's a light over here. This, as you can see, it's kind of overgrown. This is your Green Space Expansion Program here. See, Edison preserved open space. Here it is at another time of the year. Very nice. Your tax dollars are going to preserve this. Is it worth it? I mean, it was at an intersection anyway. Who the hell was going to build a house there at the intersection, you know? But our taxpayer dollars went to preserve this open space right there. It looks like it just is a dump now, and it gets overgrown at different times of the year. And when the greenery is gone, it looks like this: fallen trees, garbage. Hell, there may be a body or two laying back there for all we know.
Well, I guess they won't be able to collect property taxes at that lot because no one's moving there, so they'll get some other tax.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, there's another thing to it. Yeah. So they created the tax that to preserve that open space. Okay. They created a tax to pay off the property owner to either buy that property from them to preserve it as parkland or to buy the rights so that they don't develop on it. And then it just sits there. And if they need more money for that, they just raise the tax. They don't have to go back to the taxpayer to ask you. They just do it. And our governor, Murphy, he recently just did that. All right, so here are some tax benefits that are available. These are exemptions from the general property tax. All right, so here are some exemptions from the general property tax. Let me update my notes here. Copy this stuff over real quick, and then we'll go over that. Yeah. So seniors who are 65 and older, wait a minute. Didn't we learn that senior citizens are when they're 62 and older? Well, that's only when it doesn't affect tax dollars that are having to come out of the government's coffers or get paid by the citizens. You know, when it's benefits for like senior housing or something like that, that's not coming out of the government's pocket. You're considered a senior when you're 62 and older. But when it comes to the money, you're 65 and older. Okay, that's when it's you're considered a senior. So seniors 65 years or older who meet income requirements and residency requirements. It's for your primary residence. You can make annual deductions of up to $250. So generous. Veterans, honorably discharged ones, and their surviving unmarried spouses for real and personal property could also take tax deductions of up to $250. Disabled veterans and non-veterans alike who are disabled could get a total 100% tax exemption they could qualify for and not pay any property tax, depending on your level of disability. There's also a senior freeze that's available for seniors 65 years of age or older. They can apply for what's called the PTR program. It used to call it a senior freeze, but they renamed it to the PTR program, Property Tax Relief Program. You have to go down to your city hall, to your tax window where you pay your taxes and ask for that booklet so that you could enroll in that. But if you go down there and say, yeah, can I get the booklet for the senior tax freeze booklet? They're going to give you a runaround. At least they did in my town when I tried doing this for my father when he was still alive. Because I was teaching these classes and, I recall my dad, he's always complaining about the taxes going up. So I went to him and I was like, hey, by chance, did you apply for a senior tax freeze? And he didn't even know what I was talking about. So I went down to City Hall to get it, the booklet for him so he could enroll him in it, in this program. And the lady I was talking to there at the tax window behind the bulletproof glass, she's like, oh, there's no such program like that. And I was like, yes, there is. It's, the program where it'll freeze the seniors' taxes if their income's under a certain amount and it's their primary residence. You could freeze their taxes at a certain amount. So if they go up, they'll get reimbursed for that amount at the end of the year for the difference from what they froze them at and what the taxes are if they ever do go up. And she's like, oh, there's no program like that. And so I turned around and started to walk away. And I was like, no, this is bullshit. Let me talk to your supervisor. She said, I am the supervisor, like all that attitude, and then I was like, well, there is this program, and I explained it to her, what all the details are behind on the program, and she's like, there's two girls working behind her, and she was like, girls, did you ever hear of anything called a senior freeze program? And then she's like this, senior. The two girls just looked at each other like, should we answer? Should we say something or no? And then she was just like looking at the ceiling, senior free, senior free. Oh, you're talking about the PTR program. It was like she knew exactly what I was talking about. What kind of game is she playing down there? These are our public servants that are getting paid our tax dollars. They're supposed to be helping us, you know. She's playing some kind of a game to dismiss it and have us go away. You know, if a senior did that, they go there, they get. There's no such program. They walk away, you know, because I thought that there was no, and they walk away. You know, but this program's out there to help these seniors to freeze their taxes at a certain amount so that if those taxes do go up, the senior still has to pay the higher tax. But at the end of the year, if the state has the money in their coffers, they'll give back a check for the difference that they had to pay from the time they froze it to what the taxes are today. So they'll get a rebate for that amount. And if the state doesn't have the money in their coffers, then they'll get a credit for that amount towards next year's taxes. So it could be a huge savings for seniors. You know, so when we eventually got my father enrolled in this program, I calculated, you know, what the taxes were. I think they were $8,000 at the time when I got him frozen for him. But I calculated when he turned 65, this was when he was 79. I calculated back that when he was 65, how much he could have had him frozen at, and it was like $3,200. He could have had his taxes frozen at $3,200. And instead we got it frozen when it was like $8,200 or something like that, you know, which is a crime. It's criminal. You know, the town should be reaching out to the seniors. You know, they have lists of who the seniors are in town, or the senior center or somebody, his accountant, somebody should be telling these seniors about these programs. So I'm educating you guys right now. If you guys know anybody, seniors 65 and older, ask them if they're signed up for the Senior Freeze program. They may not even be aware of it. Don't assume that they are, like my father wasn't. So, I mean, he missed out on those savings. So for seniors, 65 and older, this PTR program, it will be a reimbursement for any increase in taxes at the end of the year. So for seniors 65 and older and certain disabled persons for their primary residence only, that applies, not for investment properties, which they must have lived in for at least 3 years. If they meet those income requirements, which now have been raised a lot, at least this was for last year's budget, it was up to $163,050. This amount varies with the state budget annually. The senior may qualify for a freeze from any increases in their taxes. So if that senior is making less than $163,050 a year, as of the last time I checked this, that was the amount, they could qualify for the Senior Freeze program and have their taxes frozen. And they'll go back and they'll go back up to 2 years to see what their taxes were then, and then they'll lower them to that amount and they'll freeze it at that. So
this is something that they go to the city hall, you said?
Yeah, you go to City Hall for that. But, you know, City Hall, if you're going to have the experience that I had where they're not very helpful, this is why these people are behind bulletproof glass, you know?
Well, they should be.
Yeah. So,
I'm actually laughing.
Yeah, it's something, right? Look, I got a resource for you where you could get it online. So at the State Treasury Department. So I got some links here where you could get this booklet and print it out online. All right. So you're going to need to fill out. It's a 1-page form, and you're going to need to submit the last 2 years' taxes to get the senior enrolled. And then after that, they'll be mailing this to them every year, and the senior can just fill out that 1-page form and send in the last year's taxes, and it'll continue. They got to apply for it like this every year, though. They got to fill out the form because the state doesn't want to keep giving tax breaks if that senior did pass away, you know. So the seniors' taxes would be frozen. This is how the senior freeze program works again. The seniors' taxes are frozen at a certain amount. And if the taxes go up after that, the senior still has to pay those higher taxes. But then they would get a rebate for the difference at the end of the year. Okay, so let me write that in there. Seniors' taxes would be frozen. If taxes go up after that, the senior would get a rebate check at the end of the year for the difference. If the state has the money in the budget, otherwise they get a credit towards next year's taxes. Let me write in there that the senior has to pay them still, though. So the senior's taxes would be frozen, and if taxes go up after that, they would have to pay the higher amount, but the senior would get a rebate check at the end of the year for the difference. For the difference. If the state has the money in the budget. Otherwise, they get a credit towards next year's taxes. All right, let me just make sure here we didn't lose anything off screen there. No, we didn't. We're good. All right. And put this in the notes with the modifications I just made. And I'm going to show you these links. Okay, so the first link here is just to the New Jersey State Treasury Department's website with all of their different relief programs. Here's the here's a link to the senior freeze details, a direct link to the senior freeze booklet. There was a proposal to cut the property tax bill in half. It's called the Stay NJ program. The original it was originally going to be that to remove the tax for seniors, so seniors do not have to pay property taxes in New Jersey. But I guess the legislators were in argument over that because they don't want to release all that money, give up all that money. So they changed it to they'll cut the seniors' tax bill in half, just so they could stay in New Jersey and not move out to a more affordable state to retire in. It's called the Stay NJ program, and it goes into effect next year. There's a brochure of tax breaks, but New Jersey got rid of this brochure. Instead, now it just points to that $250 discount or rebate for seniors. This used to be a flyer, this PT benefits brochure, used to be a flyer brochure of every tax break program that New Jersey has for property owners, for whether residential or commercial, or farmland or what have you. But now they replaced it for some reason with just that $250 senior one. And I can't find anywhere all of the programs on one flyer or brochure or even on the website anymore. They do have a list of some of the programs on the Treasury's website, but not all of them in one place. You'd need to hunt around and know about them now. And let's see, here's a link for all the tax rates in each municipality. So if we were to go to this link right here for the New Jersey Treasury, Senior Freeze, Anchors, the Stay NJ program, all that stuff, you can get it right here. Let me also add in there the Stay NJ program, Anchor rebates. What is it called? Stay NJ, etc. And I'm going to take you to the Senior Freeze website now, or the New Jersey's Treasury's website right now, and show you what they got. So if we were to click on this, boom, takes us here, the New Jersey Treasury's website. So I'll share that with you guys in the chat window. This is the New Jersey Treasury's website. So it talks about all kinds of property tax relief programs. Let's see, under 65, not collecting Social Security, disability benefits, homeowners, and mobile homes. You got an anchor benefit. New in 2025, we will not be sending out mailers or IDs or PINs for your application. Oh, you have to verify your ID now through ID Me while using on. Oh, okay, so yeah, not making it easier for seniors. Here's senior Social Security disability benefit recipients, homeowners, renters, and mobile homeowners. They combined the applications for several of these programs into one. At least that's good, so that they don't have to fill out all these different applications for all the different programs. It's all the anchor benefits, senior freeze, and stay in New Jersey is all in one program now, in one application to submit one time every year. Let's see. So here's the information to file online, print the forms, check the benefit status. You're going to need certain information here to submit to them. And here's some of the various programs. You know, you got the Senior Freeze Property Tax Reimbursement Program, the one I was just talking about. Let's take a look at it and see what the eligibility requirement was. Well, I had the eligibility requirements for 2024. I guess that is the latest one. So that is that one that I showed on the slide, which was $163,050. That's the income of the senior in order to qualify. Let's see. Filing deadline is October 31st, 2025 for the previous year, 2024. Let me see. So senior freeze eligibility requirements. Let's click on that. Let's see if that number changed. Nope, here we go. Oh, it did. So that was for last year's one. So this year they raised it a little bit, $200. So for 2024, the income requirement is $168,268. So as long as the senior's income is above that, $168,268. It keeps lately it's been going up every year. So I guess that's good for the senior. 168,268. We go update that in the notes. 168. So that amount, like I said, it varies each year. It changes, you know, those income limits. You know, you can see the history of income limits from the previous years. Here for previous year was 163,050. For 2024, it's 168,268, $168,268. As long as the income does not exceed that limitation, they could qualify for the senior freeze. So you got all the instructions here about that. And if you possess a life estate, here, this is interesting. Look, if you got a life estate, a life tenancy, you are considered the owner of the property if you have a life estate rights or hold a lease for 99 years or more. You must include your application, a copy of the official document, the deed, the lease, establishing your right to occupy the property. And then you could get that, qualify for that senior freeze program as well. So anyway, that was for the senior freeze property tax relief program. Let's see, all the taxes. Ooh. Taxes and fees administered by the Division of Taxation. No, that's for everything. Okay, we were looking at tax breaks a second ago. So property tax relief programs. So this is all they got here that they show now. So we have the senior freeze program. We have that anchor benefits program. And they have this new Stay New Jersey tax credit program. And the way that works is if the homeowner is 65 or older, it reimburses applicants for, they still need to pay the taxes, but then they get a reimbursement for 50% of their property tax bill up to a maximum of $13,000. So if your property taxes are more than that, you're out of luck. With 2024 benefit cap on 6,500. So I guess for the first year, they cap you out here at 6,500, and then I guess for the following years, it'll be 13,000. Oh wait, no, that's the cap benefit. Okay, so $13,000 of your property taxes, they reimburse up to 50% of it for a maximum of $6,500 that they'll reimburse. So it's not really a 50% program. Even they're putting all kinds of other limitations in there for the state. But I guess it's better than what they've been doing. So I guess any bit helps the senior. But this was originally supposed to be 100%, no tax for the senior. But our politicians ended up changing it to 50%. But as you can see, it's not really 50%. It's only 50% for those paying taxes up to $13,000 with a tax reimbursement maximum of $6,500. Let's see. But you have to live in your home for at least a year and have income below $500,000. Okay. All right, so there's some interesting programs there, so let your parents know about it, or if you're in that age range, or if you got family, friends, somebody, inform them, ask them, even people you're helping out, with you come across, let them know. Say, hey, are you 65 or older? Have you filed for the Senior Freeze program? You make it under $500,000, you could you qualify for the New Jersey tax credit program. Or you guys can try to spread the word even more, because the government's not trying to get the word out for the savings for people. So put this on your blogs, on your own real estate websites. Get the word out to people, And here's a list of a bunch of other tax deductions and exemptions, but not a comprehensive list. That $250 deduction for seniors and disabled people, $250 for veterans, 100% disabled veteran property tax exemption, and for non-veterans. Active military service members can get a tax deferment, because in the past, what New Jersey was doing is you'd get towns that they would foreclose on active military people who are serving overseas, who can't get to New Jersey to pay their property taxes. They would foreclose on them for non-payment of taxes. So I guess we needed to get some of our legislators in place there to vie for this, on behalf of our military, to get them to give them a property tax deferment, so they don't have to pay it until they get back, or give them some time. Automatic fire suppression systems. These are all kinds of other tax breaks and abatements programs that they have. 5-year exemption and abatement. This is usually for new construction in areas they're trying to build up. Historic site property tax exemptions, nonprofit property tax exemptions, non-residential development fee certificate exemptions, renewable energy breaks, building in urban enterprise zones. I see a couple that they're missing from here that I know of off the top of my head. They're not showing the one for farmland. They're not showing the one for, where is it? New construction. They're not showing a couple of them there. But either way, these are the programs. I shared with you the links there. We can move on from that. Let's not spend any more time on that. But I shared with you the information that you need. I got this in class links, the new class links Word document. I put it in there, and it's in our slideshows, which are accessible to you. Okay, so there we go. Exemptions from the general taxes. We could highlight that on page 136. This is talking about some of those programs I had in a previous slide. Now, if you're a renter in New Jersey, you could also qualify for these rebates as well. It's estimated that about 18% of your rent is to be used by the landlord to pay their taxes. So the tenant can deduct up to 18% of their rent on their taxes as well. So it says residents who own and pay property taxes on a principal residence in New Jersey could qualify for rebates, but it's also available to tenants who pay property taxes up to 18% of the rent and whose gross income does not exceed certain amounts. I guess they have those tolerance that they have. Some property tax reimbursements also available for owners of mobile homes located in mobile home parks. Okay, everybody got these?
Yeah.
Got it.
Look it up. Okay.
This year they
Yeah.
did the anchor rebates, but they didn't do the whole anchor rebate.
Well, I think they're doing away with the anchor program.
That means your income is more than anchor benefit, because anchor benefit is limited to some income.
That could be the case as well.
Yes.
But they are doing away with those anchor rebates in place of these other programs. You know, they don't want to keep giving money away that they could have in their pockets to spend however politicians spend it. So here is what a municipal tax map looks like. Anybody ever see this map like this? You know, there's the tax records, which show your tax bills and information about your individual property. But every municipality has a tax map. Every block, think of your entire city as a subdivision. You know, how condominium complexes, they're like little subdivisions, building subdivisions. Well, think of your whole city as a bunch of little subdivisions that are, as the city got built up, put next to each other. And they got maps of them like this. And every block, the streets, here's the streets with the blocks. You see, every block is numbered. Here's block 335, block 336. It'll be in a rectangle or a circle that's very bold. That'll be the block numbers on these maps. And then each individual property is numbered consecutively. Those are the lot numbers. So block and lot numbers. You see block and lot numbers often on taxes. You even see them on the tax records. You could even see them on contracts that we do. And this is what they're doing. They're referencing them so that you can look up on a tax map the lot and block number, and you could see the information about the property. Like this property here located on block 335, lot 5. It shows you that's this property right here, what its dimensions are, on how deep it is on that side, on that side, on that side. And it's giving you that information about the property. So you could see the dimensions and the layouts. You know, it's kind of like the surveyor's map for an entire subdivision, right? That's what that is. And you could, they have numbers at the edges of these maps so that you could put these map pages together. All right, farmland tax benefits. So to encourage the preservation of open space, New Jersey is known as the Garden State for a reason. We got a lot of farms here. So the state allows different assessment rates for farmlands. This preferential treatment is available only for genuine agricultural property, which must meet certain requirements. And those requirements we need to know for exams. It must be at least 5 acres in size, exclusive from the home site. Then this continues on the next page, 137. It must earn at least $500 per year in gross sales for the first 5 acres. That's the exception to the rule. The average now is $1,000 a year, but there's an exemption for wetlands and woodlands. So that's the lower amount, and that's the amount that we need to know for exams. So it must earn at least $500 per year in gross sales for the first 5 acres. Can anybody tell me what legitimate farm is only grossing in sales $500 a year for 5 acres of land? How do you make a living? If that's before your expenses. The gross is before your expenses, before your gas, before you pay for the equipment, before you pay salaries. For 5 acres of farmland, in order to qualify for this as farmland, a genuine agricultural property, you need to only gross $500 a year in sales. Sounds to me like a loophole, doesn't it? Let's dig in a little further.
Yeah.
For each additional acre, you have to gross another $5 per sale of income on qualified agricultural land, and $500 per acre on woodlands and wetlands above that 5 acres. Wow. So it must have been actively used as farmland for at least 2 years immediately prior to the year in which you're going to file for that preferential tax treatment. And most properties used for religious, charitable, and other non-profit purposes get 100% tax deduction. They're exempt from paying property taxes. That's why you see a lot of these fake pastors, like Reverend Al Sharpton. When did that guy preach last? He preaches about politics. That's all. He's a race baiter for as long as he's been around. A lot of these fake pastors are out there so that they could avoid paying any property taxes on their properties. There you go. Pick up a religion, become a pastor. But in order to do this, you can't just file and say you're a pastor. You have to have at least, I think the federal government requires, you have to have at least so many people in your congregation that meet to do your praying or services or whatever it is that you do for your religion on a regular basis, at least I think twice a month, in order to be considered a legitimate religion. Okay, so you get people that make up their own religions here, we got at least a minimum amount of followers. My family, we meet on a regular basis at least twice a month to pray or do whatever it is that we do, and then we get total exemption from our property taxes. I remember when I started working in real estate. I started working in West Orange. There was 1 month. In your entire careers, you'd be lucky if you get one person that ever approaches you looking for a property so they could open up a house of worship. Okay. In 1 month, I had over 30 people come to me. In 1 month, I had over 30 people come to me to looking for a property that they could have their house of worship at. And I got kind of fed up at this. I was like, this is ridiculous already. I was like, where are all these people coming from? And I said, excuse me, if you don't mind me asking. I was like, you're like the 30th person that came to me this month for this. And I'm just one agent. So I know other agents are getting people like this as well. I was like, did you guys attend a seminar or something? So how to avoid paying property taxes? So you coming up with a religion or something? I mean, what's going on here? There's so many people that come to me. This is abnormal. The guy's response was, you cannot ask that question. That's against the law. We got freedom of religion. I was like, listen, you do whatever you want. I'm just curious. I was like, my dad was a priest. I was like, I'm just curious of why over 30 people in 1 month are coming to me looking to open up a house of worship. And eventually the guy broke down. He's like, yeah, we actually did attend a seminar that taught us about this. In order to be considered a religion, a genuine religious organization, you have to file papers with the federal government. You have to explain where it is that you got to have your house of worship, where you meet on a regular basis. You have to have so many followers that meet at least twice a month, And he was giving me all these details. And I was like, yeah, I figured it was something like that, Because some of them were like, yeah, it's okay if it's like a storefront with an apartment above it, that'll be the rectory where the pastor will live. The storefront will be like where the congregation meets to pray. And I was like, wow. People are always looking for an angle, right?
Yep.
So the real estate broker must be alert to the possibility of such exemptions like these farmland exemptions. But anyway, before I get into that, I didn't explain, and it doesn't say anywhere here in the book, what that preferential tax treatment is for farmland. If you have farmland in New Jersey, which, what do you, in order to be considered genuine farmland, how much land do you need to have? Still got it on screen in front of you.
At least 5 acres.
At least 5 acres exclusive to the home site. So not counting the land that the house is sitting on. You have to have 5 acres other than the house, the land that the house is sitting on.
So you need 5.5 acres.
And
half acre for house and 5 acres for land. So total is
just the size. Okay, so you got to have at least 5 acres of land exclusive to the home site and gross at least $500 per year in sales for that first 5 acres.
Yeah.
And you have to use it as farmland for at least 2 years before you file for that preferential treatment. And then you know what the tax break is? 98% off on the taxes.
That's 98%.
So basically, you could have like a chicken coop and just be good to go.
As long as you gross at least 5 acres per year for that first 5 acres, and you don't, as long as you gross at least 5 acres per year.
Yeah, that's why lots of in front of home, they're putting some vegetable. You can go by yourself and you can buy whatever dollar you want to put there.
I was just about to mention that. In some of these real rich areas, where you see, you could drive for like a mile, and you're still by the fence for this one property, of some super rich person. And then they have a roadside stand where you could buy some eggs or some other things that they put up on the stand. They used to man them with people, or at least their kids, to teach them some values about selling and working, Now they don't even bother with that. They just put up a roadside stand, pick whatever crap you want, and put the money in the box for the honor system, Then they get their tax break, and so they got a 98%, so they only pay 2% of their property taxes. They got a 98% tax break on their land. Now, legitimate farms don't operate that way. They got a huge farmer market with people employed there to sell their goods, unless they're selling them to supermarkets and stuff like that. This is a tax break for the rich. Okay, this is a tax break for the rich, filled with loopholes. $500 a year. The legitimate farm is only grossing $500 a year in sales. That is ridiculous. Do you guys agree with me on this, or just like,
yeah, totally.
Season here.
So why don't so many more people have farms? You see them around, but like you should have it on every house practically.
Can you afford acres of land? Plus
what was that?
Can you afford the home site plus an additional 5 acres of land? Can you afford such a large property? Many people can't.
Anybody that has a backyard, technically.
Well, you got to have at least 5 acres.
Farmland can only be when we have 5 acre plus land, 5 acre for farming, and plus at least 2.25 acre for home, or whatever you want. Even 0.1 acre you want for home, but you need 5 acre plus land. Then you can claim for.
The county state of New Jersey is going to be kind of expensive to buy.
Yeah. Right now, we cannot find 5 acre less than million. any part of the New Jersey, you cannot find less than million.
Yeah, you can find it if you look hard enough. You could go to tax auctions too and get buy properties like this too, and maybe get.
You can find lots of land on the Pennsylvania near around the
New Jersey, just New Jersey right here.
Yeah.
So let's pause on this on the next slide. I'm going to give a little more explanation about these fake farmers and farmland loopholes and such, just to rile you up a little bit more. But anyway, the real estate broker must be alert for the possibility of such exemptions, so that when the property is offered for sale to the public, potential buyers will know the true tax figure rather than a lesser amount that the current owner is paying. the new owner is going to have to pay the true tax figure if they're not going to use it as a farm, or if they're not going to qualify for a religious exemption or nonprofit or what have you. So they need to be aware when we put a property up on the market for sale, we don't just ask the owner, how much are you paying in taxes? Because they could be getting a disability reduction in classes in taxes, or a reduction that $250 or whatever because they're seniors or they're veterans or whatnot, or they fall into some other category where they get some kind of a tax break. So we need to know the true tax figure rather than that lesser amount that they've been paying. And then we advertise the true tax figure because that's the amount that the new owner is going to need to pay. So be aware of that. When we get a listing, don't just ask how much you're paying in taxes. We should go to the tax records and see how much the taxes actually are, regardless of any breaks that the current property owner is getting. Sometimes people with new construction, they could buy a house that's in a blighted area that they got new construction. They're trying to build it up, and they get a 5-year tax abatement. So basically, they practically pay no taxes on the land. All right. So here's a little image, one of my cartoonish drawings. So you got to have at least 5 acres of land, not counting the land that the house is sitting on. So it's going to look like this here, you know. In addition to the house, you got to have 5 acres of land, okay? And the farmers can take a 98% annual deduction from the property taxes. Now, this is actually needed for legitimate farmers, because otherwise, if the farmer would have to pay the actual taxes that a homeowner would pay for all of the land that's needed for farming, there's no way that they could stay in business. So the legitimate farmers need these tax breaks. However, this law is so full of loopholes. Instead of a gross sale of $500 a year for the first 5 acres, why not make it $500,000 a year? Or $1 million a year.
Yeah, even if you are not having a gross sale of 500K, then how you can survive? Because on a 500K, 60% is investment.
Yeah. So I would say, you know what? Let's make even $500,000. Okay, let's do it that way. $500,000 a year gross sales for the first 5 acres. And then if you are a farm, a legitimate farm, and you're making less than that for whatever reason in gross sales, then you need to fill out like a 1-page document explaining why you should be considered a legitimate farmland under the penalty of perjury and jail time. You know, let's put that in there, some kind of consequences in place, and boom, the problem would be solved. We'd get rid of a lot of the fake farmers, right, that are using this as a loophole, the rich people and politicians and judges and doctors and people who are celebrities that are using this as a loophole.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's
all the politicians.
That's actually what it is. You know, take a look at this. Did you guys hear about this? This was in 2019. Kevin Corbett, he was the head of the New Jersey Transit. His salary is $281,000 a year. He's the head of New Jersey Transit. He paid $19.42 in property taxes for his home in Mendham that he had registered as farmland because he owns 2 sheep. In the meantime, his neighbors are paying, on average, $20,609.
Looks like I'm gonna buy myself 2 sheep.
I mean, well, really, this guy is a legitimate farmer because he got 2 sheep. I mean, how much wool can you shave off of 2 sheep? How much money are you going to make off of that? Really? Come on. How about this one? Former Republican Governor Christine Todd Whitman came under fire. She was the worst governor I think we ever had. Well, close next to this guy that we currently have. She was awful too. Christine Todd Whitman came under fire during the tenure of her state house, claiming reducing the taxes on her 2 estates that she owns by claiming that she sells firewood to relatives and friends. Yeah, the governor is a legitimate farmer.
And she is selling firewood.
Yeah. You remember what Christine Todd Whitman looks like, that tall, skinny waif of a woman? You think she's out there with a chainsaw or an axe cutting down trees and breaking up firewood to sell to sell? Come on. It's a tax break. She just claims that she sells $500 a year in firewood and pays the taxes on the income for a gross income of $500, so she could get a 98% deduction on the taxes on 2 properties she owns. All right, how about this? And it goes across the lines. Look, you have a Democrat here, Ellen Karcher, from back in 2007. She said she had a property and claiming she sells about a half a dozen of Christmas trees a year. So another one who cuts down trees, claiming that she's a tree farmer. So she got a tax break of 98%. Or what about celebrity Bruce Springsteen? The former, I was never into his music though, but anyway, former rocker Bruce Springsteen, he pays $138,000 a year in property taxes for the land that his 3-acre for his home that his home sits on, which is 3 acres of land in Colts Neck. He lives. That's a really rich area. So he pays $138,000 a year for his property taxes that his house sits on in Colts Neck. But attached to that land that his house sits on, where he pays $138,000 a year for 3 acres, he owns an additional 200 acres where he could take his horse out and trot and do whatever. So he owns 200 acres of land. Imagine if you had to pay the same rate on that. So instead, he pays a part-time farmer to do some farming and growing a few organic tomatoes at the corner of his property there. And he owns a few horses. So, but that's for his own enjoyment, to go out riding them. So for that 200 additional acres, he only pays $4,600 a year in property taxes. That's criminal.
Criminal is, oh man.
You think Bruce Springsteen's a farmer? He's not a farmer. Even though Bruce Springsteen and Bon Jovi and those guys, they put together that community farm thing, that charity, where it's actually a restaurant, a couple of restaurants for that they put together with top famous chefs cooking up meals. And you get to go there and just pay whatever you can afford to pay out of your pocket. And in the meantime, they get the stuff from local farmers. Okay, most of that stuff's not coming from their farm, or Bruce Springsteen's farm. He's got a farmer just growing some tomatoes. But what about all the other stuff? And then you got Bon Jovi. The former rocker Bon Jovi. He has that Navesink River Road mansion that has its own name. That's called the High Point Estate, worth $20 million. That he only paid $104 in taxes on, because he claims that he raises honeybees. So, Bon Jovi, you think that he's a farmer, a legitimate farmer, or selling, raising honeybees and selling honey? Or maybe that's just a hobby that he had that was being used to give some honey, a jar of honey to his relatives, and then in the meantime, he gets a 98% reduction on his property taxes. Remember, these are 2 celebrities that did that Farm Aid program, that they were asking politicians that farmers are the backbone of their country, and they need more money to help them maintain and run their farms, which they got passed into law. And so farmers can actually get money from the government to help a little bit. So they're getting money. And so Bruce Springsteen and Bon Jovi, who are also farmers, are getting money from the government to help run their farm while they get a 98% tax break on it. And then they also ran that concert called Farm Aid, raising millions of dollars. Most farmers never got a penny of that. I wonder which farmers got it. Bon Jovi and Bruce Springsteen's are farmers too, huh? You think that concert was raising Farm Aid for their own farms? Ridiculous. Look, so we got Jeff Tittle. This guy is the director of the Sierra Club. This is one of those environmentalist activist groups. Even he's on the same page as me, kind of, sort of, to some degree. He said that if they were to raise, because the politicians were, once people found out about Bruce Springsteen, Bon Jovi, and politicians getting, claiming to be farmers, and saying that this is a loophole, this is BS. Politicians were like, oh, we hear you. We are going to take action to correct this. We're going to fix that problem. We'll raise that minimum income requirement. You know what they raised it to? $1,000.
Yeah, 500 to 1,000. They can say, they will not say number. They can say we doubled the income.
It's still bullshit,
We doubled the income.
So it's a sham reform. Even this guy, this is no conservative here. This is a very liberal group right here. So he's like, that's a sham reform. And he said it should have been increased to at least $10,000, or maybe even a little less. I think it should be a lot more. I think it should be at least $500,000. $500,000 at least. Gross income. Remember, you got to pay for farmer seed, the water bill, the sewer bills, the water bills, the gas or diesel for your equipment, and you got to pay workers and all that. So you're only how do you stay in business if you're not grossing at least $500,000 to run a farm?
I have only 10 by 50 feet on the backyard, the vegetable patch. There I'm spending each year almost $500. I'm spending to bring it
into your backyard. Yeah, exactly. So imagine a farm.
Imagine the farm.
So Jeff Tittle said we could do a lot more for the legitimate farmers if we weren't giving so much of it away to the fake farmers. And he was suggesting just raising it to $10,000, or maybe even a little less as the gross income, which is still a ridiculously low amount. So the spokesman for the part-time farmers pleaded to keep a minimum $1,000, and after reviewing an old study completed by Rutgers Agricultural Experiment Station in 2008 that found that if the minimum were raised to $10,000, the state would lose 39.3% of its farmland in New Jersey because they'd become ineligible for the tax exemption. Oh, so Rutgers ran a study and just told us that 39.3% of the farms are fake farmers. That's what I got out of it. What about you? Are we reading the same thing here?
New Jersey, I swear.
We're interpreting this in the same way, right?
So when we are raising 10,000, when you raise 10,000, if you raise $500,000, then 98% in place of 39, it can be 93% is fake farmer.
And imagine you can bring down the cost of food.
Yeah.
These are rich people taking advantage, and they're disguising themselves as farmers. And they say, whoa, we would lose about 39.3% of our farmland in the Garden State if we were to raise these minimums. Yeah, for the fake farmers. That is, talk about political spin. Holy crap. So, anyway, that's what it is. So.
And this is only in New Jersey, right?
That's for New Jersey. Other states may have their own requirements. This is specifically for New Jersey, correct.
Virginia had income only $100 in place of 500 is 100.
Cheaper property taxes than New Jersey. New Jersey is the highest tax state in the nation. I think.
Yeah, highest tax state.
I think Hawaii may have us by a little bit, but other than that, I think we're the highest tax state in the nation.
California?
No, not that much tax.
Taxes. Property taxes are extremely expensive. I think we still got them beat. Because remember, taxes are paid. See, they pay more in dollar amount because of the big mansions and stuff that they put on those properties, making them. Remember, it's the ad valorem tax. It's based on the value of the property, not just the land, but what's on it. And they build mansions on it. So they pay a lot more in property taxes, but the tax rates in New Jersey are far greater. If you were to put that same mansion on a piece of land here in New Jersey, you'd be paying way more.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. At least I'm not the only one that's thinking this. I thought I was going crazy here for a while. All right. So anyway, who qualifies for 100% total property tax exemption in New Jersey? Religious groups, charitable charities, nonprofits. Nonprofits and charities can be a different thing, 100% disabled non-veterans, as well as 100% disabled veterans, and their surviving married spouses would also qualify for their benefits if they did not remarry.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What does it mean by non-veterans, 100% disabled? Is that like, because I am in the Marine Corps Reserves and like I don't qualify as a veteran. I am still active, but like serving in the reserves.
That's non-veteran. Mm-hmm. Yeah, in the later chapter, what's required for you to take advantage of some benefits from the military. You have to have so much service if you're in the reserves. You have to serve, I think it's 6 years in the National Guard or the reserves before you could qualify for these benefits. And then you could get the military benefits as well. But we'll go over that in a later chapter. So this is just like your average citizen, 100% disabled people, non-veterans, 100% disabled veterans, and their surviving unmarried spouses would also qualify for that. Okay, so special assessments. I explained already, this is a tax, an improvement tax, but it's not an improvement that the owner pays. So write this next to the title there. It's an improvement done by the municipality, not the owner. This is a tax for improvements done by the municipality, not improvements done by the property owner. A lot of people misinterpret that. Property owner does improvements and increases the value of their house. That's covered under the ad valorem tax. And while you do that, I'll go back because I missed out on taking a couple notes, adding. So, okay, so once again, in practice, licensees should be very careful when selling property that includes a special assessment. Many times the improvement has been financed over a number of years. That special assessment tax that was imposed has been financed over a period of years. And the new property owner may incur financial liability for continuing the payments if the previous owner didn't pay them all. So we really need to find out when we get a listing, asking the owner, are there any outstanding special assessments that haven't been paid off yet? This is actually even a checkbox now. It's a section on the sales contracts that we actually use now. It's a checkbox. Are there any special assessments that have not yet been paid or that are outstanding? That's actually included in our standard sales contracts that we use now. Okay, everybody got these highlights and wrote those things down?
Yes.
So the special assessment, I'm sorry?
Is it got it?
Okay, so the special assessment tax, once again, this is improvements. This is a tax to pay for improvements the municipality wishes to make. And they're going to get that money by imposing a tax only on the properties in the area near that improvement that stem to benefit from it. Only those property owners are going to have to pay it, not everybody in town. And once it's paid off, then that one-time tax that was imposed goes away. Okay, so how does the taxation process work? Well, taxes are determined not on the actual market value of a property, but on their assessed value. An assessed value is a value that the tax man uses when calculating your property taxes. And you need to re-engineer the formula to fit those figures to be able to figure out what the actual property value he's thinking your property is worth. Because the assessed value is based on the actual property value. But they don't tell you what that property value is. You have to do some reverse engineering to try to figure it out. So here's the formula I put together for you. But let me read this. Assessed value is a value used for tax purposes and does not reflect the actual property value. The word value means 100%. So anytime we're talking about value, we're trying to talk about all of it. So that's why value means 100%. And that is market value is the 100% of the true value of the property. Now, the formula to reverse engineer what market values that your taxes are based on, well, the tax man does some math to come up with, based on the market value, they do some calculation to calculate an assessed value, and then the taxes are based on that assessed value. Now, New Jersey's goal when determining assessed value is trying to get it to full market value. Almost impossible to do, because they would need to get an appraiser in everybody's house every year to make sure you didn't do any improvements, or to see if you did any improvements or whatever, to find out what the actual value of your home is. And at the maximum, the municipality can only appraise each person's property or revalue their property at least once every 18 months. So here's the formula that they use to reverse engineer the market value. You take the assessed value, divide it by the tax ratio, and then times that by 100, and that'll give you the market value that the tax man used. So if the tax man's what he figured what your market value of your property was is actually higher than what it really should be, then you could do a tax appeal. You could appeal the value that the tax assessor assessed your property at if they overestimated the actual market value by more than 15%. They're allowed a 15% margin of error. So they can basically, when you go down to file a tax appeal, you go down to your taxman and say, yeah, I want to appeal my taxes. I want to get my taxes lowered. You know what they're going to say? We don't do that here. You need to go talk to your politician and argue with them. Because politicians are the ones that set how much you pay in taxes. Well, wait a minute. Didn't we just learn ad valorem is the general property tax, and it means according to the value of the property? What do politicians have to do with that? Well, they have to deal with the tax rate. The tax rate is the number that you multiply by the assessed value, which is based on the market value. And And that's how they calculate the property taxes that you eventually pay. Okay. So they try to brush you off in that way. You know, I went down to the tax man, I did the same thing. And I was like, oh, come on, don't play this game with me. You know what I'm talking about. I was like, okay, let's get technical then. I want to appeal the assessed value of the property that you set on it because you assessed the property's value way too high. Okay. And then he's like, well, you do that online now in Union County. So he gave me a link to go to. I was like, great. So I was like, well, why am I at it? Because it's not in the tax records. You don't include it in the tax records. I need to know what the tax ratio and the tax rate is that you used on my property. The tax ratio is the number that they use to you multiply the assessed value, the math, the formula that they use is the tax ratio is to reverse engineer the actual market value that the taxman used. The tax rate is the number that they use to calculate the property taxes by multiplying that by the assessed value. So you need to know those two numbers, the ratio and the rate, if you want to figure out all of this stuff that the tax man is doing. All right. And they used to send it on that little postcard tax bill that says this is not a tax bill. It shows you what your coming year's taxes are and what your last year's taxes were. They used to put the tax rate and ratio on there. Now they don't even do that. You got to do hunting around to try to figure it out. So I guess some people got wise to it, so now they just hide those numbers on you. So the assessed value is what the year's taxes are based on. And New Jersey has a set goal of full value assessment. Almost impossible to attain. Why? Because they can't get an appraiser into your house every year. When's the last time anybody here had the city send an appraiser to your house? I'm not talking about when you bought a house. I'm talking about when's the last time the city, not your lender, the city sent an appraiser to your house? Some people may have been never. Then how come how come your assessed value keeps going up on your property? How come your property taxes keep going up? How does that happen? Well, taxes go up because they mess with the tax rates. If they raise your taxes can go up, and yet your assessed value could still be reflecting the same for the last 5 years. But if they raise the assessed value as well, you can argue it if it's not in line with the true market value figures. Okay. So periodically, so how does the taxman keep changing the value of your property when they've never sent an appraiser to your property? Well, what they do is, if you ever notice the neighborhood that you live in, all the homes in the area, give or take a little bit, are on approximately the same lot size, give or take a little bit. I mean, we're not talking, it makes a difference. It's like if it's a half acre difference or if it's a subdividable amount difference. So the lot sizes may be roughly the same. All the properties are probably about approximate same architectural style in the area, right? There's not vast differences in the architectural styles. They're either all colonials, they're all Cape Cods, they're all ranches, mostly in the area. So what the appraiser does, what the city does, they do send out an appraiser to do a sampling. They do appraisals on a couple sample homes in the area. And based on those sample homes that they cherry pick to appraise, they will do a blanket assessment on the value, assuming all the other homes in the area are the same. Now, if those homes had improvements done to them, but yours never had any improvements done, they're most likely over-assessing the value of your home. And then you'd probably be able to win a tax appeal. So that's why your taxes, they keep reevaluating your property, but yet they never sent an appraiser to your home. They sent an appraiser to someone else's home in the area, and they did a blanket assessment on the whole neighborhood based on that. That don't seem right, right? So periodically, municipalities must have a revaluation. That's an outside appraisal firm is hired to assess every rateable, every taxable property in the municipality. I never had, in over 30 years, never had one come to my house until I did a tax appeal. Then they have to send one. So they were doing those blanket assessments. So they bring everyone's assessment up to the current market value. The New Jersey Division of Taxation and Property Administration has published an excellent brochure on how property is valued for tax purposes. Another outstanding brochure is Understanding Revaluations, available at this link that they give right here. And that is the link that I put right here. So it's basically a PDF document. Here, I just share this with you. This is what the brochure looks like. It's a foldable brochure. It explains to you the true market value, taxable values, frequently asked questions. It has a bunch of links and resources here for you. And how you could do a revalue, or how revaluations are done. And that's it. It doesn't tell you about the actual how to do a tax appeal. I'll have another link for you for that. But here, let me take this link and I'll put it in in our Word document. Yeah. What did they call it? Understanding how revaluations work, or something like that. Understanding. Here, let me share that link with you guys here. But let's first see what it was that they called it. Understanding revaluations. Oh, okay. Yeah. How do you appeal the assessment value? Well, if you feel like they overestimated the market value, which you would need to reverse engineer using this formula to figure out what the market value your tax man based the assessed value on. If it was more than 15% overestimated, you can win a tax appeal. So they'll send out an appraiser to actually go to your house, appraise the house, determine what the actual value of it is. And then if it's a lower amount, they would lower the amount. And then the taxes would be based on that lower amount. They don't lower your taxes, they lower the assessed value and that they use to calculate your taxes. See, that's the semantical game that they were playing with me when I went down there to try to get my tax appeal done. Tricky, those guys, huh? So here I'll share with you in the tax window a tax appeal guide information page. Giving a lot of great resources here. So if you click on that,
You're still
what's that?
you're showing the slide? Oh, okay.
No, I'm showing the New Jersey Division of Taxation on
Yeah, I switched
this
now.
this is that link on appealing your property taxes on how to do it, and it shows you, they're allowed a plus or minus 15% margin of error. Oh man, that's not good. So here's also on the same place, you got resources, a handbook for New Jersey assessors. Let's see, New Jersey's handbook for county tax boards, a tax appeal guide and hearings. That's good for us, and how property is valued for tax purposes. Now, they did not update this yet, it looks like. Let me see. If your property is assessed at more than $1 million, it's considered a mansion, even if it's just raw land with no building on it. That's another tax that they got you to pass when you went to go vote. We had those public option questions on the side that said we were going to assess a 1% property tax on any property valued $1 million or more under what the proposed law. It was called a mansion tax. Now, if I say mansion tax, am I planting a seed, an image in your head of rich people? If I said that, hey, we put this on the ballot for you to vote on, would you agree to create a 1% property tax for anybody who buys a property $1 million or more under a title of something called the mansion tax? Would you be okay with that? A lot of people would, because, these days there's a lot of hostility. You got to apparently hate the rich, So people went along with it and voted to create a 1% property tax, additional property tax, that buyers of real estate valued at $1 million or more have to pay 1% of whatever the purchase price is. Because voters voted on that, because, we hate the rich and they should pay their fair share. That's always the argument, right? Let me ask you a question. When a developer buys a large piece of land that they're going to put, let's just say, a bunch of low-income housing on it, you think that they paid at least $1 million for that land? Do you think now they're going to have to pay the mansion tax on that raw land that they bought, that they're going to build low-income housing and affordable housing on? Do you think they're going to eat that loss? Or do you think they're going to add it into the sale price of every single one of those homes that are sold? So when you try to stick it to the man, the rich man, and make them pay that extra 1% tax, who'd you really stick it to? Karma's a bitch. Excuse my language, but that's karma right there at work. And that's exactly, politicians don't care. They'll tell you whatever story they need to get you to vote on whatever issue they want you to vote on. And this is just another example of where that actually occurred. I hope you guys are getting mad at these politicians that are feeding you all this garbage, like you're going to be taxing the rich in some way and hurting them. In the meantime, they're just you're taxing builders that are building average price homes or affordable or low income housing, and you're raising the prices on those even because of the taxes. They're not going to eat the loss. They're going to they're going to add it into the sale price of every single home. And probably more on top of that to deal with the legalities and the issues that they had to deal with for the processing of that. So it's probably going to be even more than 1%. And we also gave the ability for them to raise that amount if they wanted to. You know what our Governor Murphy just recently did? He raised that amount. That 1% for properties over $1 million, They didn't adjust it here yet. Let me see. It was last updated 4/25/2025. They didn't raise this yet. It's Governor Murphy just raised this tax from 1% that the buyers need to pay to, oh geez, I forget if it was 3 or 3.5%. He jacked it up. he jacked it up a couple 100%. Wow. Wow. Politicians want your money, they'll get it. All right. There's an equalization factor to make sure that each county pays their fair share and that some others may pay a lesser amount. To make sure that the richer counties and the poorer counties are all paying their fair share on par. There's something called an equalization factor that they figure into it. And anytime we have a math problem that we need to calculate the taxes on, if the problem mentions an equalization factor, you have to calculate that number first before you calculate the tax. Okay? You have to factor in the equalization factor first. So the assessed value of each property in an area is multiplied by this equalization factor, and then the tax rate is applied to that equalized assessment value. All right, let me get these equalization factors, notes. The screenshots. Snippet tool. Now I just want to make sure everybody got the, you did get all of these notes where I wrote this in, and you got all the highlights in from this previous slide, right? For the taxation process and how it works. How assessed values are calculated. Yes or no?
Yeah,
Honestly, no.
I got it.
Okay. We're gonna do some math problems. We'll do a math problem about calculating an equalization factor into it. Let's see this example they give. These rates allow adjustments to distribute property tax revenue equitably among individual school districts. For example, the assessment in one county are 20% lower than the average assessments throughout the rest of the state. This underassessment can be corrected by applying an equalization factor of 125% to each assessment in that county. So it would basically raise it by 25%. So a parcel of land assessed for tax purposes at $98,000 has an equalized value of $122,500, which then the taxes will be calculated on that higher amount. So to figure out that 122.5, they basically take 98,000 times 1.25, that is 125%, which is how they came up with that $122,500 figure. So 122,500 is greater than 98,000. So then they take 122,500 times 20%. To come up with $24,500. as the tax. Here, let me show you. It's called a mill rate. An equalization, you take the equalization factor times the assessed value to get the equalized assessment, and then you times that by the tax rate to figure out what the taxes are that you got to pay. That's the formula.
Can you see the formula again?
Yeah, it's right there at the top of the screen. You guys are seeing the slide? I'm showing you the PowerPoint slides. Make sure. You see that? It's the
Yeah.
equalize. You take the equalization factor times the assessed value equals the equalized assessment, and then you times that by the tax rate to get the taxes. You see where I'm at with the mouse? And then if they don't give you an equalization factor on your math problems, you just take the assessed value times the tax rate. That's how you calculate the taxes. Now, a mill is 1/1000th of a dollar or 1/10 of a cent. It's basically 3 decimal places when you're doing the calculation. What do we call a taxable property in New Jersey? It was on one of the previous slides. What do we call a taxable property? It's called a rateable. A rateable is a taxable property. And a list of all the ratables in the municipality is called an assessment roll. So you could just add up, the politicians can just add up the line on the right-hand side of the page that shows a list of all the ratables in the town. They just add up the line all the way to the right that is the property taxes. They add up all the property taxes for all the ratables in the municipality, and then that's their budget for the year. That's the money that they're guaranteed to collect every year. Why are they guaranteed to collect that? Because you got to pay your taxes. That's why. If you don't pay your taxes, what happens?
Jail time.
No, they do a tax auction. Property. They do a tax auction on your property. That's what they do. So in New Jersey, taxes are based on when you're figuring out the mill, the 1/1000th of a dollar or 1/10 of a cent. In any cases, 3 decimal points, sir. Taxes can be calculated based 30 mils of every dollar of assessed value, or $3 for every $100 of assessed value, or $30 per every $1,000 of assessed value. You may get math problems for every $30 per $1,000 of assessed value. It depends on what they state it as. But in New Jersey, they actually use it, the mill rate. It's $3 for every $100 of assessed value, or whatever dollar figure they're using. It's per $100 of assessed value when they're using mill rates, when you're calculating a mill rate. This is just an example that they give right here. So in New Jersey, however, the tax rate can only be expressed as dollars per 100 of assessed value, not per 1,000. So that's the taxation process of a mill. So here's how we do. Here's a good a rundown here. Assessed value is a value used for tax purposes. It's not the actual property's value, which is called market value. To reverse engineer what market value taxes are based on, you take the assessed value divided by the tax ratio and multiply that by 100 to get the market value that the tax man thinks your home is worth. New Jersey's goal when assessing property values for taxation purposes is full value assessment at 100% of the market value, almost impossible to attain. So does New Jersey tax every property at 100% of its market value? Does New Jersey tax properties at 100% of its market value?
They try.
That's the goal. But do they actually tax them that way? The answer is no. It's almost impossible to attain because they would have to send a tax man they'd have to send an appraiser to your house every year to appraise your home, and they don't do that. Right? So, but you'll get a question based on that theory right there. New Jersey, you got to know, New Jersey does not appraise properties at 100% of their market value. That is their goal, but they do not do it because that would be almost impossible to attain. Now, in reality, properties have been assessed as low as 15% of their true market value and as high as 150% of their market value. If they assess your property at 100%, 150% of its market value, could you do a tax appeal and win it?
Yeah, so they're basically reaching their 100% by having this 15% error in there.
About 15% margin of error to be wrong. They're not always over by 15%. Sometimes they're under. Like I said, sometimes properties have been assessed at as low as 15% of their market value, and sometimes as high as 150% of the market value. But in any case, the tax assessor is allowed a 15% margin of error.
Yeah, so it balances out between all the properties. So they win some and then they lose some, and then it's 100% value.
You really need to keep an eye on this because you don't want to pay more in taxes than you should be, should you? Right?
Right.
So yeah, you should really keep an eye on your tax bill and try to know how to reverse engineer to figure out the full market value your tax man thinks your home is worth. And then either use an appraiser, or you guys are going to learn how to do CMAs. You could be able to do a CMA to figure out what the market value is on that property to see if they overestimated the value. If they overestimated the market value, and it's more than 15% that they did, you could do a tax appeal and win it. So how do you do a tax appeal? You appeal the assessed value. An owner can dispute the value of the improvement to the real estate, but not the land itself. Because as a general rule, the land that your house is sitting on doesn't depreciate. Even if you drop a bomb on it, it wouldn't depreciate in value. Unless it was a nuclear bomb and then there was radiation and then it can't be used. In rare circumstances like that, land's value can be depreciated if it's contaminated in some way. But overall, generally speaking, land does not depreciate. So when doing a tax appeal, they make it a little bit harder here. You have to subtract the value of the land from the overall value of the property, and then figure out what they estimated the improvements value is. And you could only appeal the value of the improvements. This is why when they send you the tax bill, you see they say improvement value, land value, total value. They do that breakdown like that. So a rateable is a taxable property. An assessment roll is a list of all the ratables in the municipality. You guys noticing I'm putting a lot of the information we went over all on one slide here. Hint, hint, wink, wink, nod, nod. Okay, so here's how to file for a tax appeal. I got a guide here for that. I got a let me see, how to file a tax appeal in New Jersey, a tax appeal guide, and understanding valuations, all here in one place. If you guys want, I could copy those over and share them with you. Let's do that. Okay, Zoom, where are your controls? Okay. Think those are all those guides. By the way, all the stuff that I've been teaching you, every day at the end of the class, when I close out the window, have you guys been getting an update or an email of a summary of what was gone over in the class? Okay, maybe Zoom is just doing that for the instructors. They keep sending me an email of a summary. The AI tool that they have is creating a summary of everything that we went over in the day's lesson. It's actually not that bad. So I've been keeping the emails though. I'm going to be copying them. I'll copy them over into a document. I guess I'll call it and I'll put it in the shared Google Drive. I'll call it the AI lesson summary. Okay. So every day that we've been teaching this class, they've been giving me that AI summary of the day's meetings and topics and everything we went over. It's pretty cool, actually. All right. So the equalization factor, once again, here's the formula. Equalization factor times the assessed value equals the equalized assessed value. Multiply that by the tax rate, and that's how you can figure out what your property taxes are. If they did not give you an equalization factor in a math problem, you just take the assessed value times the tax rate. It'll tell you the taxes. You need to know for exams, because they'll always give you on exams either a math problem or just a definition of a mil. A mil is 1/1000th of a dollar or 1/10 of a cent. Your tax bills are given quarterly, which there are 4 quarters in a year and we got 12 months. So every 3 months you get your tax bill. You need to pay 4 times a year. Tax liens are specific liens that only affect the property being taxed. They're specific. You know, if you get foreclosed on due to non-payment of your property taxes, it doesn't affect your credit. It only affects because your municipality doesn't report it to credit reporting agencies. Now, your lender may when you don't pay your mortgage bill, but if you get foreclosed on due to non-payment of taxes, doesn't affect your taxes. It doesn't affect your credit. All right. There's a free tax record search tool that I created this tiny URL for. However, there's been some major changes in legislature due to all the activism. Here, let me do it a different way. Let me put it in air quotes. All the activism from all these activists that are violently protesting everywhere. You know, everything from Supreme Court justices, they start, what do they call it, gaslighting them, and they start putting the home addresses out there so you can get all these activists to go out to judges' houses and start banging pots and pans outside their house and start threatening them and doing stuff like that, which is illegal, by the way. But yet they do it anyway. They threaten ICE and immigration officers and are even attacking them. They do the same thing to police when they don't like what the police are doing because, the police are racist and all. So they start publishing their names and addresses to harass their families or even in hopes of something happening to them. And there was actually a situation where a judge in New Jersey, her husband was murdered. Oh, no, it wasn't her husband. It was her child. Her child was murdered because somebody tried gaslighting her like this and posted the information about her online, because of some kind of a legal decision she made that some activist didn't like. And they published her family's information and everything. And somebody came to her front door with a gun. And as soon as the front door opened, they blasted the first person that was there, and they killed the child of this New Jersey judge. Because of that, they passed a law called Daniels Law in New Jersey. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. This was
My friend works for him.
I'm sorry?
My best friend works for him.
Yeah, pretty messed up, huh?
Yeah.
So they passed this law called Daniels Law, which now anybody who works in law enforcement, that includes judges, police, ICE, anybody who works in law enforcement, in the legal area, they could opt out of having their private records put into tax record systems and any other publicly available records because of these activists' activities that they've been doing. So because of that, the tax record systems that are available publicly that you could get for free also separated. They broke off because each one doesn't want to be responsible. There used to be one central tax record search system that we could use for free that had all 21 counties in there. It was real easy to access. Before you even have a real estate license, you could access it. Now you could still access it, but you got to go to each individual county's website, search around, find their tax record search system, and then use it. Okay. Because they don't want to be responsible for integrating in their one single search of another county's tax record system, which they're not sure if they updated and are in compliance with Daniels Law. They're only going to be responsible for their own compliance of Daniels Law. So I used to have this link here, tinyurl.com/NJ tax search, which it still works. And I pointed to the Monmouth County tax record search system, which you used to be able to hit this drop down for the county, and it showed all 21 counties. Now it just shows Monmouth County. However, if you want to search another county, Monmouth County and all the municipalities within it, okay? If you want to search any other county, you could click here on the New Jersey County Boards of Taxation. And over here, you got a list of all 21 counties. And you could go to each website, and it has the contact for the administrator of the tax records for every county and their email address. You could search, you could go to their website, each county's tax website, and then you could find their tax record search system there. And you could search for your property. Like I live in Union County, so I'd click here as an example. Now you can hunt around, and you can see they have the disclosure here of Daniels Law. Filing a tax appeal online, Union County has that. New Jersey's Taxpayer Bill of Rights, where is it? Appeals, links, contact Daniel Law forms, report meeting. Tax rates and ratios. Oh, good. They make it available there. Equalization, facts. Oh, Union County, good. They simplified it, actually. And we see in these links here, where can we do the tax search, the tax records? Counties, municipalities. See, if I click on my town, what does it do? Now it just shows my city's website. Okay, no, that's not what I was looking for. Oh, here we go. Assessment records right up top. Duh. So I could have clicked on assessment records search, and now it says does it look familiar? Does it look like the Monmouth County one? It's the same system that they use to do the searches, but they separated them all. But that's how you get access to them. You click on the county tax system, and then you go to the individual. That takes you to the County Board of Taxation with all the different websites for all the 21 counties. And then you do the search for each county.
Can you post a link of this?
Sure. Sure. Let me get all these links because this is another different link that they gave us here. But I think if you click on these searches, this doesn't take you to the actual tax search. Because let me see, if I click on that, no, it takes you to Google to search for Union County Board of Taxation.
The previous one that you had open.
But this has the links to all of those websites. So you know what? I'm going to take this one as well as those previous ones. Yes, and I'll share it with you. So let me first copy them over into my ClassLinks Word document, and then I could share that with you. So tax records, I'll call it, and put that there. Okay, so there we go. This is NJACTB. This is tax board. Okay. And then we'll also have, okay, so let me also click on this. Let me go to that Union County one for a second, because they had the thing here about Daniel's Law. Okay, Union County doesn't take you to the link. There's actually a video there. Oh, wait, oh no, they do have it right here. They have an explanation. In November 2020, Governor Murphy signed Daniel's Law, which amended the Open Public Records Act, OPRA, where people were making public requests to get information of, where people live and such like that. Specifically, Daniel's law is designed to expand protections from public exposure for personal information about active and retired judges, law enforcement officers, and prosecutors and their immediate families. If you meet the criteria covered and you wish to have your personal information protected, you could visit the website for Daniel's Law registration here and have your information removed from all public records. And that is for Daniel's Law, so I'll put. And then if we're actually to go to the home page of that, the Daniel's Law, where is it? Oh, FAQ, is it? I know it was somewhere on this website. There was oh, here it is. Just got to scroll down for Daniel's Law. And I want to show you this. Let her explain it. For any potential activists out there that want to do this kind of nonsense.
My name is Esther Salas, and I'm a United States District Judge. As some of you might recall, 2 years ago, a disgruntled lawyer, a self-proclaimed anti-feminist and racist, set a course aimed at assassinating me. This man obtained my home address and other personal information off the internet and used that information to stalk me and my family. On Sunday, July 19, 2020, this man walked up to my door, rang my doorbell, and killed my only child, Daniel, and almost killed my husband of 27 years. As Daniel's mom, shortly after my son's death, I decided that I couldn't let my son's death be in vain. Since Daniel's senseless murder, my husband Mark and I have made it our mission in life to try to save others from enduring this unfathomable pain. Protecting the lives of public servants from retaliatory threats and violence is critical if our public servants are to feel safe in their courtrooms, their offices, and their homes. Thanks to the New Jersey legislature and Governor Murphy, we now have the protection of Daniel's Law. Daniel's law prohibits the disclosure of residential addresses of certain covered persons on websites that are controlled by the state, county, and local government agencies. These covered persons can include active and retired judges, prosecutors, and members of the law enforcement community and their immediate family members who reside in the same household. To help carry out the work of protecting these individuals, the Office of Information Privacy was created within the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs. The office has established a new online portal where all covered persons can now apply for redaction of their personal information. If you are one of the thousands of covered persons residing in New York.
Let me stop you for a second right there. Right now, we currently have a lot of the Democrats in Congress, for some reason, wanting to take the masks off of ICE members who we've seen have been getting killed, who have been getting shot, who've been getting attacked for their law enforcement activities that they've been doing, our immigration enforcement. Why would they want to do that? So, they could pass all of these laws, but if the actual prosecutors are not going to put charges and not drop them and actually pursue them against people who are actually attacking our law enforcement individuals, our judges and stuff, it does no good. Currently, we're seeing, it's fine and dandy that this law was passed and all. However, we're getting these people in politics who, depending on what political party you're siding with, or what issue, what side of an issue, a particular issue you side with, they selectively want to do this stuff. You see politicians right now, they're calling for unmasking of these law enforcement agencies who don't want their identities to be exposed because of these radicals out there that are doing these things. I mean, just the last couple of days, I've seen a couple of videos on published in on Facebook of security camera videos where ICE members were shot. One guy was recently shot in the face. He was off duty. He was, I think, on a date, sitting on a rock overlooking a water in a river, and hanging out there with his date. And these two guys on a moped came and they shot him in the face. And in another instance, there was a case where an ICE member was shot. You could see he was still alive, and one of the people on a scooter drove him and dumped his body in front of a hospital, and he's over there just on the ground dying. This stuff is happening still, and prosecutors are not going after it in some of these districts where it's all over political ideology. If you're on the, apparently it's okay to shoot people if you're for Trump, or if you're for immigration enforcement or things of that nature, which is ridiculous. If you're on the left or you're on the right, you should be protected. You shouldn't have to deal with this stuff. This political extremism is just getting out of hand. And, she dealt with this a couple of years ago in a courtroom. You got people still experiencing this right now.
New Jersey who qualify for this protection, or if you're not sure and you want to find out, please visit www.danielslaw.nj.gov. Not a single day goes by that I don't think about my Daniel. For Mark and me, there's nothing we can do to bring our Daniel back. However, if you're listening to this message, you have an option. Together, we can make a difference. Please visit the portal and do your part to ensure that you and your loved ones are safe.
I mean, that's a sad story right there, but this is why our tax records, why we're having this now, because everything is getting redacted. They're separating it because each agency wants to only be responsible for their own redactions of that information, and not having one central search that could have other counties that may not be keeping up on their redactions. So that's why they broke all up. So this link I'm sharing with you is not one central link. You have to go to each individual website. And I did not share that with you yet, did I? So let me give you that information. I'm actually going to make a list of all the different websites and put them in one spot here for you, but you could go here to the NJACTB website and get that information as well. And here, I'm going to give you access to all this stuff. Now, when you guys become members of an MLS, you're going to have records. You're going to have a central database that you could search all the tax records in the state. You know, you're paying for a subscription for that. It's part of the MLS. But as far as free and open to the public, those searches, no more. There you go. Here's those links for the tax records. The tax board is the first one. The tax record search that I gave you for the Monmouth County, and then you can click on that other link within that web page. And here's all the county's tax boards, and here's the link to Daniel's Law. If you wanted to go to that website. Okay, let's go back to the slideshow now. And let me make sure I have all of those records. Yep, okay. I do. Once they're updated. So, tax appeals. Let's see, the tax assessor, they're allowed that 15% margin of error, that plus or minus 15% margin of error when estimating the values of the homes, which the taxes are based on those estimated values. Remember, you cannot appeal the value of the land because, as a general rule, land does not appreciate. So tax rates are used to determine the amount of taxes that are to be paid. Tax ratio is used to reverse engineer the value, the assessed value that the tax man used. So if you get a question like this, if a property's assessed value is $133,000 and it has a mill rate of $23.01 per $1,000 of value, how much would the property taxes be for this property? Well, how many thousands are there in 133,000? 133. So you take 133,000 divided by 1,000. That gives you, in this question, assessed value per $1,000. And then the mill rate they give you is $23.01 per $1,000. They want it expressed in this question. So you take 133 times 23.01, and you get $3,060.33. Okay, that's in a nutshell how to calculate it. It's fairly simple math. You just got to know the formulas. You got calculators you could use. Here, let me give you another one. Tax ratios are used to reverse engineer the value of the property. So what value does the tax assessor use? They use an assessed value. So if you want to figure out what the actual market value is that the tax man is estimated your property to be valued at, in this example, this is an actual tax record that I pulled up, $133,000 of assessed value. In this instance, the tax ratio was 40.37, which we found through the tax record search. You divide it by that tax ratio, and you get $3,294.52. Multiply that by 100, and that's the market value that the tax assessor is basing the property's value on. So here's that formula. Assessed value divided by tax ratio times 100 equals the market value the tax assessor used. That's how you reverse engineer it. Now let me try to get these last two slides on in your notes here, your ClassLinks Word document. Okay, got one of them. Next slide. Reverse engineering the assessed value. And then here. You got that added to your notes now too. So here's a problem for you. It comes from question 5 from chapter 8. A house is valued at $120,000 and assessed for 80% of its value. The tax rate is $26.34 per $1,000. How much is the property tax bill? What's the first step you would do to figure this out?
So 120 ka 80%, then the minus and remaining amount we can multiply by 26.
Okay, so we take 120,000 times 80% to figure out what the assessed value is, because it's only assessed at 80% of the value, right? And then
96,000, yeah.
And then what do we do?
So 96,000 divided by the thousands.
Okay, so that comes, so 80% of 120,000 is 96,000. It says you got to figure out based on the tax rate, which is calculated per $1,000 of value. So how many thousands are there in 96,000? 96.
96.
And then we multiply
26
by the mill rate.
So it's B.
And that's how we came up with it.
Yeah, 2528.
120,000 times the 80%. That's 96,000 divided by 1,000. Or you could just cross out the 3 zeros there. Gives you 96. And then he times it by the mill rate, and that gives you the tax. So the answer is B. If anybody wants to take a screenshot of how we figured that out.
Got it.
All right. Got some of these windows and find that. There we go. A screenshot of that too. So Windows Shift S. Oh. All right, so I'm going to take that. I'm going to put that in our. I'll clip that and I'll put that problem in our notes as well for doing the calculation of the taxation method. All right, let's give another one here. The question chapter 8 from an old version book, the 13th version. So you guys are not going to have it in, I think, this current version. The question is, what is the annual real estate tax on a property that's valued at $135,000 and assessed for tax purposes at $47,250 with an equalization factor of 125% when the tax rate is $2.50 per $100 of value? Now, if you just read a problem straightforward like that, you're probably going to have to read it 10 times and your head is probably spinning. So slow it down. What is this question asking of us? What does this question want to know? What is the annual real estate tax on a property? That's what it wants to know. See, we're breaking it down into editable chunks. Okay, so how do we figure out taxes? What value are taxes based on?
Based on the actual value, assessed value.
No, the assessed value, not the actual value, which is market value. It's based on the assessed
Yeah.
value. So
Assessed
do we
value
need,
27.
so do we need this first number here?
Doesn't need anything for that.
No, we don't need that first number. We need to
Yeah.
find what the assessed value is, and we got that right here. It's 47,250. But in this problem, they gave an equalization factor. Remember when I told you you get an equalization factor, you need to calculate that first?
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is we're going to take the assessed value and multiply it by 125%, which is 1.25. And then we're going to divide it by 100 and multiply it by $2.50, the mill rate.
Yeah. So 59062 divided by 100 to 590
Okay,
multiplied by.
Don't say it out. Don't say it out loud. Let everybody get a chance to work at it. Okay. We just explained it, the process that they got to do. Let's see if everybody can do it now.
So
don't say it out loud. Don't say it out loud. You can send it to me in the chat window. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Remember, it's 125% or 1.25. Somebody sent me an answer and they forgot to hit the percent symbol that converted it to 1.25. So you just multiplied it by 125. That number is way too big. And then let me see. Okay, yeah. Minus the cents, I guess. You got it there, Vinit. You just you didn't go down to the penny, but that's fine.
Yeah, I remove all the penny.
Yeah, that's fine. All right. So basically, this is it. This is the workout for everybody here. You took that assessed value, you times it by 125%, the equalization factor, and that gives you the equalized value of $59,062.50. The mill rate is based on per $100 of value. So we're going to have to divide that by 100 to see how many times 100 goes into that 59,000 and change. And it goes in there 590.63 times. Then we times that by the mill rate of 2.50, $2.50, and the taxes are $1,476.56. That's how we come up with that answer. Now let me write it in your notes. And that's how we worked out that problem. Okay, everybody got a screenshot that wanted a screenshot of this? These are the types of problems you'll get on exam. Although school exam doesn't have a whole lot of math, we got a couple math problems, but we don't got a boatload of them. Sorry, I was just helping somebody work out a problem here. Make sure you hit that percent symbol, 125%, or just type in, convert it to a whole number. You just cross out the percent symbol and go 2 decimal points to the left. So it'd be, and you put a point here. So it's 1.25. That's how you convert a percentage to a whole number. And then you could do the multiplication as a whole number times 1.25. Or don't forget, if you're just going to type in 125, make sure you hit the percent button on your calculators. Otherwise, you're going to get a much larger number. Okay, here are the real estate values viewed for taxation purposes by the owner and by the tax man, right? We have two clearly different views here. So the homeowner looks at their house when it comes to figuring out the property taxes. Yeah, they got this mild-mannered house here, right? But the tax man looks at it like that. At least that's everybody's projection of the way it looks, right? From your own eyes when you have to pay the bills. So taxes become a lien on your property on January 1st. You don't got to pay the full taxes for the year all at once. You get billed quarterly. You pay them 4 times a year, every 3 months. Okay. The 1st of May, let me see, where you go? February 1st, 1st of May, August, and November. If you do not pay your taxes, if your taxes go unpaid, 6 months after the end of the year, and you still have not paid your taxes in full by 6 months after December 31st, the taxing body can and should resort to a tax foreclosure. So the local tax collector is required to hold a tax sale of your property. Advance notices of the sale must be posted in 5 places in the municipality and advertised in a local newspaper for 4 weeks. The owners of the property should receive a notice of the forthcoming sale by mail, but if they don't, the sale is still valid. Now, why is that? Well, the sale is still valid because you know the taxes were owed. You know the taxes are due. You've been ignoring those bills that have been coming in. So that's not the tax man's problem, that's yours. So the purchaser, they tax sale at a tax sale, those auctions. If they win the tax auction, they don't get your property. They just get a tax sale certificate. So what do you win when you go to a tax auction? You get to pay that person's taxes in full. So what are you bidding on at a tax auction? You're not bidding on how much you're going to pay for the property, because that's not what this auction's about. This auction is about the municipality just collecting the unpaid taxes. And whoever wins the auction has to pay the full amount. So what are you bidding on? What is the goal when bidding on a property at a tax auction? You want to be the winner so that you get to pay someone else's property taxes that they didn't pay. That's the end game. And then the municipality gives you a tax sale certificate that says, okay, well, the homeowner owes you this much money at this rate, and they need to pay you by this deadline. Otherwise, you can foreclose on them. So basically, how do you bid at a tax auction if you can't bid on the amount you're going to charge the property owner? You're bidding on the interest rate that you're going to charge them. It starts at 18%. Let me ask you, how much are your current savings accounts paying you these days? And we're near 18%.
No, not close.
Not even close. You'd be lucky if it's 0.1%, unless it's one of those high yield checking accounts or savings accounts, which you could find them if you search them out, and you may be able to get about 4 to 4.5% on high yield savings accounts. But most of them out there right now, they're paying like 0.1%. You get pennies on thousands of dollars that you have in your bank account. You know, so why leave the money sitting there when you could invest in tax certificates, go to tax auctions and bid, get the opportunity to pay someone else's taxes, and as being grateful, the municipality will say, okay, well, whatever interest rate you win it at, you're going to earn that kind of money on the money that you paid the taxes. So the homeowner has 2 years to pay you back the money at the interest rate you win at. The interest starts at 18%, and whoever bids down to the lowest interest rate that they're going to charge the homeowner will win the auction. We're not trying to make it harder for the homeowner to keep their home. The taxing body just wants their money so that they can spend, right? So when you go to a tax auction, you're not bidding on how much you're going to pay. You're bidding on the interest rate you're charging the homeowner. Starts at 18%, and if you're the only bidder, you get it at 18%. What are the average taxes in New Jersey? Anybody know what the average is? This year, the current average on property taxes, the average throughout the state is $9,500. That's the average property taxes.
Yep, that's true.
Do you know what the average is across the country, the entire country?
Maybe 2,000.
2,000.
5,000?
6,000.
Oh.
So New Jersey is $3,500 above the average. That's when I say average, we're averaging out the rich ones where you're spending a lot to the poor ones. If we were to get rid of those states that really have really high taxes, then the average would probably be closer to 3,000. You know, so that just shows you, you know, do taxes have an impact on where people can live? What the affordability of houses, how much house you could buy? Definitely, because you factored into your monthly mortgage payment, right? How much you could afford to pay back the loan plus the taxes. And if it's a condo, plus the condo association fees, you know, but let's not get into that right now. So at the tax auction, you're bidding on how much you're going to charge the homeowner to pay you back all the money that you paid for their outstanding taxes that they have not paid. So you have to have that money. So you win the auction. If nobody else bids, you get it at 18%. That homeowner has 2 years to pay you back all the tax money plus 18% interest, and reasonable filing fees and legal costs, if you have any. And you pass that on to that homeowner. If the homeowner fails to pay you back, plus the interest rate and your expenses, you can foreclose on them as if you were the taxing body yourself foreclosing due to non-payment of taxes. And when it comes to liens, paying liens, who gets paid back first? Who jumps to the top of the list always?
The taxes first.
Taxes. Two things certain in life: death and taxes. But the interesting thing is, that's when it goes to a sheriff's sale auction. Taxes have to be paid back first and always. When you don't pay your property taxes and there's a tax foreclosure sale, you pay that person's taxes. The homeowner has 2 years to pay you back plus interest. If they do not pay you back within that 2-year period, now you can foreclose on them as if you're the municipality and wipe out all other liens. You get that property free and clear just for whatever you paid in that person's property taxes.
So I had a question, like we don't have to pay the value of the property. It's just
Tax auction works different than those sheriff sale auctions. Those sheriff sale auctions, you're bidding on the value of the property to try to get as much money as you can to pay off the lender's mortgage that may be outstanding, the mortgage loan that may be outstanding, plus the taxes and all those other, maybe there's mechanics liens and other liens on the property you need to pay back. And whatever, if there's not enough proceeds from the sale to pay them all back, those other remaining liens get wiped out. In a tax auction, the only goal is to pay back the taxes. And then all other liens get wiped out, even a first mortgage. So if somebody still owed $350,000 on their mortgage loan, but you paid their tax lien, and they didn't pay you back in 2 years, and their lender never stepped in to pay it, then you can foreclose, wiping out even their mortgage. You get it free and clear just for whatever you paid in their property taxes.
How long does the person have to not pay their taxes in?
6 months after the end of the year. Then the municipality will schedule a tax auction, which may be in a couple more months. And then, so it could be close to a year behind already on their taxes.
So when do you see properties that are falling into that category? Probably like May, June time?
Well, yeah, whenever the municipality gets around to it.
how do we get to know about?
They're not on a tight schedule to do this. Sometimes they let them go longer. You know, sometimes they're a little bit quicker with scheduling these things. It really depends on the municipality. I'm going to show you an example of that. I'm sorry, Jyoti, you had a question?
Yeah, how do we come to know about it? Because this seems to be a good way to invest, like you said. Yeah, because you know the bank is just sitting and is really not really getting anything at all.
Ah, sounds like this class is going to be paying for itself again, right? Really soon.
Yeah, but how common is the final step to actually happen? That you, let's say the person has, I don't know, $6,000 outstanding, and the owner doesn't pay it back, and the lender doesn't step in, and you can actually own the property for $6,000. Is that what the end results would be?
Plus whatever fee that you need to pay an attorney to do the foreclosure for you, unless you know how to do it yourself.
Oh, okay.
So let's just say it's a ridiculous amount of, an attorney charges you a ridiculously high amount of $5,000 to do the foreclosure.
So that would be $11,000.
Now you're into it for $11,000. A piece of raw land is worth at least $150,000, depending where it's at, right?
I'm sorry, what was that?
A piece of raw land is worth, with no structure on it, is worth at least $150,000 at minimum, depending where it's at, right?
Right.
I mean, this is a no-brainer. Why are people buying houses at sheriff's auctions, which still may have liens on them that they need to pay off, and then they get a house that's all busted up that they still need to dump money in to fix it and then flip it? You think this would be a lot more profitable? Yeah, if they know how to.
But how common is it?
How many municipalities do we have in New Jersey? You guys recall?
21.
564 municipalities in the state of 565 or 564, something like that. 500. I think it's 564 municipalities that we have in New Jersey. Every single one of them does this, and that's just New Jersey. The entire country does this.
So how do we come to know that there's something in the market?
Oh,
To bid?
So what are you saying? Where do I find these tax auctions? Well, the purchaser at a tax sale receives. Oh wait, where do we go here?
No, I want to know how common it is to actually land up with that last step.
I'll show you in a second. Oh, well, look, even if the lender steps in and pays back the money, or the property owner digs up the money and they pay it last second, you're earning a lot more money than you currently in your savings account. You just got to be prepared to have it tied up for up to 2 years.
Right.
So even if they pay you back, that's like the worst case scenario. They pay you back your money plus the interest, which is higher than your banks are paying you. That's the worst case scenario.
Right.
I mean, that's a great deal, right? What you're hoping for is that they don't pay you back. Now, some people are like, well, it's messed up because then you got to evict the person, get them out of the house, and how about if I get the property, can I just rent it back to them? I would say do not get involved in this if that's your attitude, because you're not thinking like a business person. You're thinking with your heart too much. This person is not paying their property taxes. What makes you think they're going to pay your rent?
That's true.
So you got to get a sheriff's officer to get in there and yank them out, and get all that crap out. If you can't think along those lines and you can't do that, don't get involved in this. All right? This is a business thing. Now somebody's gonna make out on it, but if you can't do it, then don't get involved in this. All right? The other way this person's losing their house if they don't come up with the money. Everybody got to pay their taxes. So if you don't pay your taxes, you get kicked out. That's bottom line. It's the way it works. You get foreclosed on. Okay? Whether it's your mortgage or it's your taxes. So if you're bleeding heart, then don't get involved in it. You're going to end up losing money, and they're going to end up screwing you over. And the taxes still need to get paid at the end of the day. What?
Take it from the perspective of like an investment, stick to it for 2 years, and then we can sell it later. So then we can sell it at the market value or whatever, which will be much.
You could sell it at market value, or you could price it aggressively to get a quick sale.
Yeah.
And you still make a fortune. Look, the last one of these I did was years ago. It's been a while since I did one of these, but I had this investor guy who he had 2 properties. That I did, but one of them that I did for him, he got the property from a tax auction. Okay, it was a 4-family house in Hillside, and the property taxes were only $7,500, and the owner, who didn't even live there, this was a money-making property for him, it was fully rented out, and he was collecting the money for it, so I don't know why he wasn't paying his bills. So he didn't pay his taxes. He got foreclosed on. Let's just say he didn't pay his taxes for 2 years. That's $15,000 he was behind. And let's just say that he paid his attorney $5,000 to do a foreclosure. That's $20,000. He laid out in cash. I sold the property for $490,000. And you could also subtract my 6% commission that I charged him on that. He didn't care what I charged him. So I charged him 6% on it, and I got both ends of the commission. I got the full 6%, and he still made out like a bandit. He made hundreds of thousands of dollars on it for putting in 20. Not a bad investment.
When they say it's too good to be true, then it's usually too good to be true. So where are the risks involved? And
don't buy land.
Do you know if those kinds of foreclosures are able to purchase with a VA home loan?
You need cash to invest in this.
Oh, it has to be cash, right?
Yeah, because all you're doing is you're paying the municipality the money that has not been paid on the taxes. You're paying the taxes for somebody, which
okay, makes sense. Yeah.
That you could get the house for just what you pay in their taxes and an attorney to do the paperwork to get the foreclosure done.
Got it.
Yeah, so like you said, like you just spend roughly, to get it very simple, around 20,000, and then if you sell it for around 500,000, which is much, a lot. Yeah. How do we come to know about them?
Okay, so questions here. So let me get to them one more time. Let's just do a little recap. When taxes are unpaid for 6 months after the end of the year, the taxing body can resort to a tax foreclosure. So the local tax collector is required to hold this tax sale of the property. Advance notices of this sale are posted in 5 places in your municipality. They put up a sign at City Hall, in the courthouse, in the library, in 5 places in the municipality, they will post up these signs, okay? Now, in case somebody grabs one of them and takes them off the wall, well, they posted it. So they also have to post it in the local newspaper for 4 weeks. Owners of the property should also receive a notice in the mail of that forthcoming sale, but even if they don't, the sale's still valid, because you know you're behind on your paying your taxes. You've been getting the bills, you've been getting the late notices, you've been getting this, they send many notices to you. So the purchaser, the tax sale, would receive a tax sale certificate, but is not entitled to occupy or use the property and does not receive title, meaning you don't get ownership, you just get a certificate that says this owner needs to pay you back this money at this interest rate by this deadline. And if a municipality purchases the certificate, if the municipality were to pay someone's taxes and get the certificate for some reason, maybe they wanted the property, the delinquent homeowner has 6 months in which to pay back the money to the municipality. But if it's a private investor like you or I that go to these tax auctions, the redemption period is 2 years. We need to know this for exams. What is the redemption period for private parties that purchase tax sales certificates?
2 years.
And for municipalities?
6 months.
Okay, so the homeowner trying to regain the property must pay reasonable legal cost and interest on the overdue taxes. After the redemption period has passed without the owners redeeming the property, the holder of the certificate may obtain clear title, meaning it wipes out all other liens, even a first mortgage that may be on the property still, by the legal process of foreclosure anytime within 20 years. I would not wait 20 years because who's paying the taxes in the meantime? If nobody's paying the taxes, there could be another tax auction that comes up. So someone else will have a tax certificate and then they could foreclose on you if you don't pay them. If the municipality does foreclose on a tax sale certificate, it's done through a judicial process. It's done through the process of a judicial foreclosure held before a court. This action is called an in rem proceeding against the property, and this type of proceeding is available only to municipalities to foreclose on due to non-payment of taxes, and it does not affect the debtor's credit rating because they do not report it to the credit reporting agencies. Now,
bottom line is that
what do we find? What?
I'm saying the bottom line is to everyone, don't focus too much, just read for exam purpose. No one going to lose their home for tax only.
You want to bet?
I'm saying everyone was excited to buy a home in $6,000 or $10,000.
Let me ask you a question. Anybody live in a municipality where your water bill or your sewer bill is a municipal bill, where it has the name of your town's sewage authority, water and sewage authority?
My mom does.
New Jersey American Water. See, if it's New Jersey American Water, that's public utilities. But if if your water and sewer bill said, I know, like Rahway, for example, it's it looks like the American Water is handling that, but it actually has a stamp on there. It says Rahway Water Sewage Authority, Water and Sewage Authority. Okay, and you get that bill. If you don't pay your water or sewer bill, and it's a municipal bill that that you pay to your municipality, that actually goes on the tax auction sale block as well.
Yeah, that happened to my
Yeah.
mom in Carteret.
I've seen people lose their houses over $300. So Vinay, you said nobody's going to lose their house over a couple thousand. I've seen people lose it over a couple hundred.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You know,
Great.
can you
So they
imagine?
must be getting alerts prior to that, that to pay back their sewer bills and all. But if
What?
they don't,
I'm sorry, what was the question?
I'm saying that they must be informed well to pay back the sewer bills. But then
You get the bills, you're getting the bills, and you're also getting you're getting the bills from the municipality. Hey, you're behind on your sewer bill. You're getting late notices. You're gonna possibly face legal action and additional fees. You get the warnings of all this. They keep sending them out, but when people have financial troubles or issues, they often don't even open the mail anymore. They just throw it in a pile on the table by the door over there, and they never even look at it.
Yeah.
They know what it is. I don't have the money for it.
My mom
stress out, so
Yeah,
they just throw it in a pile.
right.
But the thing is, just doing that can cause issues. Instead, they should go to the municipality, see if there's a program available, because there are programs available. If we take that, like the Truth in Renting booklet, there's legal resources and financial resources for people who are facing hardships and stuff, not just for rentals, but even for property owners, where they can maybe get some assistance to help them pay their heating and sewer and water bills and such like that, where the charities will help them out. But if you just throw it on the table and you never open it, this is common human psychology. This is what people do. They get stressed out by these things, and they hope to see no evil, hear no evil. I hope the problem goes away. It sits in a pile. I'll deal with it later.
Yeah,
But they never get to dealing with it, and they lose their property, unfortunately for them. But this is an opportunity for an investor now, because they're not paying their bills. It's unfortunate for them, but somebody's going to capitalize on it. Why not it be you?
What else could be under municipality? What other bills?
Maybe it's municipal garbage pickup, right? Water, sewer, a sales tax, right? It could have been a sales tax on the property that they didn't pay, or maybe some other bill, maybe for, I don't know what kind of bill there could be other bills. It would depend on the municipality, what kind of bills that they have for that they would collect in that way and put on the auction block. It's up to the municipality, really. But they'll send out their warning letters and all that. So here's a slide where I recapped everything on one slide again. And I talked about, the advertisements, when you need to pay by, what does the winner at a tax auction get, how that tax auction works, the right of redemption, the redemption period, which you need to know for exams, and what do we call that special court proceeding reserved only for municipalities due to non-payment of taxes, in rem. And then I got a resource down here for you. I got a link. We got 564 municipalities in the state of New Jersey, and they may have, some of them may do their own auctions in their courtrooms, and to find out about them, you got to get on their mailing list, like their snail mail, not even an email list. They're like the old-fashioned mail with a stamp, get on that list, or they get fax lists. Not every municipality is up in the 21st century here yet, and you need to find out how they conduct it or what service they use. Here's a website that I'm going to give you. It's actually a website to a software company. This software company, realauction.com, they created a software for municipalities and lenders to manage payments and things of that nature, manage their tax payments and auctions and such. If we were just to go to their homepage, it takes you here. Look, they create better solutions. They create software. They create auction software. They create tax software. You know, you can look at all their all that. But if we were to click on the link that I gave you here on the slideshow, it takes you directly to the client list, and you see they have, this is their different software products: Real Foreclose, Real Tax Lien, Real TDA, whatever that is, and Real TDM. So we're going to click on tax liens because we want to go to the tax lien auctions.
It's only showing the slideshow.
Okay, I'm sorry. Let me back that up again then and go back and show you. So it takes you here, realauction.com. And they have different software. It's a software company. But if you click on their client list, and then they got these different types of software, we want this one, the tax lien software. And we want to look at their client list. So let's go to New Jersey. Let's filter it out to go to select New Jersey. And we're not even going to put in a client name. The client name would be the municipality. We'll just submit. There are 267 municipalities in New Jersey that use this software company to conduct their tax auctions. But we have 564 municipalities in New Jersey. So there's still a couple hundred that are not using this. They're using some other resource. So if you don't see the municipality that you want to do attend a tax auction at, you need to contact the tax collector's office in your town and ask them how they conduct their tax auctions. Where can you get that information? It may be published on their website when the tax auction nears, or they could send you notices by fax or by mail, however they conduct their auctions. So you got a list here. These are all the different websites that they create with their software for doing the tax auctions. Now, if we just scroll down, you don't see any dates right here right now. Here's one that actually has a date, 9/16/2025. So in Atlantic Highlands in Monmouth County, they have an auction coming up on 9/16. It's scheduled. Now, if you go to, you click on that, you see it comes to their website. This is these websites look the same because they're made by Real Auction. It doesn't have any information up yet. They didn't post any information about their auctions yet. But you can at least look up their bidding rules and results of previous auctions and see how this works. Let's see, do they still got, nope, they don't got results for the previous auction here. So let's go back and let's look at another one. Let's close that out. Let's see, here's one 7/21. That was 2 days ago in Belmar. This is a different Belmar in Camden County. But let's take a look at that one. It's not the Belmar at the beach, Belmar in Camden. You got to register first on the website. Now you start here and it explains to you how the tax auction works. Frequently asked questions, what you got to do. You got to put the money at least 10% on deposit with certified funds with the tax collector before you could bid on these auctions. And then you could wire this municipality allows you to wire the funds electronically, pay cash, cashier's check, or money order. Each municipality may have a different way of doing it. This is why you need to check with the frequently asked questions on each municipality's website or tax auction site. Then you register for the auction page, and then you can preview some items that they have. Let's look at some of their items. So you can see the different charge types. I'm not sure what E would be. So what we could do is we could actually click on this auction number here and look at their total charges. And we could see that E, I don't know what the hell that is, CCMUA, whatever that is. But that's what the majority of that charges. I have no idea what CCMUA is. And then there's the cost of a sale too. So not sure what that is. But either way, the total auction outstanding amount that the bidder has to pay is $949.05. And then what do you get? Well, let's take a look. You get this parcel. They got the address here. You could Google it, or you could check on the map over here. Look at that. Wait, is that the? Oh no, here's the property. It's right behind the Extra Storage Space Storage Company. Looks like a pretty nice house. Looks like it's fairly new too. Pretty big. Nice
For
size.
$1,000, that's not bad.
Yeah, for $950, it's not a bad investment, right? Look at the size of that house compared to some of the other neighbors. It looks like it's a newer, bigger house, but it's right next to the storage place. So I don't know how great the location is. I'm not familiar with this area, but it looks pretty nice. All right, so that's how you figure out what to bid on. Here, this person has a lot of unpaid things. TWSE, whoa, $7,900. Let's see what all those things are. Total charges. Property taxes outstanding are $5,892, or plus interests already. Let's see if there's a certificate history on this. No previous auctions that it was at. There's a cost of sale, $150, a outstanding water bill of $309, sewer charge of $62, and that CCMUA, whatever the heck that is for this.
That is I just saw it. It's Camden County, the Municipal Utilities Authority.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the charges. So utilities, I guess they didn't pay.
Yeah. Miscellaneous, yeah. So the deposit they take, like, the 10,000, that is just like a deposit, they refund you back?
This looks like another pretty nice house over here. It's gone up. The persons did not pay. So you would need to have $7,931.63 to win this auction. If you win the auction, that's what you would need to pay right away. So you need to have that money to pay right away.
These are the current outstanding charges, but what about the new charges that are going to be going on to the home? Who's responsible for that? Or that will be on the next, like, how does that work?
If it gets to the point where there would be another auction,
Yeah,
because you're the current holder of a certificate because you won this auction,
yeah.
the municipality will reach out to you because you're the current holder of a tax lien certificate on the property. They're going to tell you, hey, they didn't pay this year's bills either. You want to pay them? If you do, you get it at 18%. No matter what percentage you bid on, and you got this. Say you got this one at 4% because you were in a bid with someone else to get this, and you got this at 4%. Well, the next one, if they didn't pay the next auction, or the next year's fees, they'll contact you and they'll say, do you want to pay it? If not, it'll just go on the auction block, and then somebody will be behind you by 2 years, in which time you could still foreclose, and then you'd still have to eventually pay them. Or you could pay it, get that out of the way, and that's an additional money that they'd have to pay you back, plus at the rate of 18%, not at the rate that you won this one at. So that one doesn't even go.
Right. So basically, if there's a history that it's on there before, then you're not so likely to get the bid. And even if you do get the 18%, you'll have to pay back the taxes to the next person that paid it.
Who cares? It doesn't matter if you pay it now or you pay it later. You can be like, I don't got that money now, I don't want to pay it now. Then that's fine. Then they'll schedule another auction, which will be in a couple more months. They'll have someone else who will win the auction, and they'll be 2 years behind you before they could collect. But by then, you would have foreclosed on this person, and then you could put it on the market for sale, sell the property, pay the outstanding taxes, plus that whatever interest rate that they wanted at the other person at the other auction. That's why you could go here before you bid on any of these. You could click there, see if anybody else got a certificate. There's no other outstanding certificates there. So there's your research already done. Right?
So this can also be a kind of a lucrative way of making quick money.
Yeah, look at this. $192 for quick money. I don't know. It's unless they pay you back quickly, but they have 2 years to pay you back. Look at this one, $136 for water and sewage. We learned already that those codes at this municipality mean water and sewage. Those codes could mean something else at a different municipality, so you really got to go into it and check for each municipality what the code means. Here's one sewer bill. They didn't pay $134. Imagine losing your house over $134. These people are currently in danger of that. So this will go to auction. Somebody wins a certificate, and then these property owners have 2 years to pay back $134 plus whatever interest rate. And if they don't, you could foreclose on them over $134 and get their house free and clear. Let's see what kind of house you get for $134. A house with solar panels on it, or is it? I'm not sure which house this is here. From this angle, it's kind of tough to tell. I'm not sure if it's that house or this house, but either way, they both look like nice houses. Look at this one. Got it finished outside. They got a nice patio set out there. Look at that. That's pretty nice get up. This one they got the solar
It would be the
panels.
gray one. I think it would be the one with solar panels.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell from here unless you turn the picture which
The
one it
brown,
is.
the tan one says 1125 on it.
Oh yeah, 1129. So we can look at the parcel details. It's 1129. Yeah, so yep, you're right. So it's probably that one with the solar panels. All right, so I showed you guys how to do this. So let's continue moving on here.
Now, are there any other risks involved, or is it like that way?
Yeah, even if there's a house on it, you risk if you buy a house that has oil that leaked on the property, contamination from a leaky oil tank or something like that. But you know what? That's not really much of a risk because you could always reach out to one of these remediation companies. I've had several of these oil remediation companies contact me to see if I have any properties for sale that had oil tanks leak on the property so that they could invest in them and buy them, and then they do the cleanup themselves. So they're, it's an investment for them. They're making money. They're saving on the cost of the cleanup that they charge for the work that they do because they could do it themselves and certify it, clean. So not much risk.
Is there any buyer that you shouldn't buy from, let's say, an LLC or something?
Has nothing to do with it. It has to deal with the only worries I would worry about was if there's contamination on the ground, and if it is a actually I wouldn't even worry about that. I would worry about if it's just a vacant raw lot with no house on it. Be careful, do a little more research before you bid on them. I know my ex-wife bid on these auctions one time, and she bought a 3-acre lot on that, White Horse Pike, that's on its way to Atlantic City. Is that White Horse Pike or Black Horse Pike? That goes that long way on the way to Atlantic
It's
City.
a Black Horse Pike, I think.
That's Black Horse Pike. So on Black Horse Pike, right at a corner at a lake, at a switched intersection, she bought 3 acres of land at an auction for a couple $100. And she won the auction. She got the property. She got the ownership of it. And then she told me about it. I'm excited. Hey, she got this. And I was like, oh, really? I said, can you build anything on it? She says, of course, it's 3 acres of land. Of course you could build on it. I said, are you sure? And then I did a little research because this was Hamilton Township, where that was. So I did a little research and I contacted the tax person in that town. And I asked them, and apparently this property sold several times at tax auction previously. Apparently people bought it, then they didn't do nothing with it, and then they didn't pay the taxes with the tax auction again. So I contacted their building department and I said, can you build something on this? And they said, no. Unless you own another 7 acres of land in town, because Hamilton Township has 10-acre zoning. So the property owner has to own 10 acres of land. It does not need to be contiguous, attached. It could be 3 acres here, 7 acres there. As long as you own 10 acres of land, you could do construction in the municipality, so then you could build on that lot. But that would require you to buy another 7 acres. So in the meantime, she can't build nothing on it. So that's the danger. Do your research first, because you may be getting a property that you can't do nothing with.
What does it say when it means that the registration is offline now? That means you have to reach out to them specifically?
It just they could be doing system backups and things like that, or updates. When they're doing those things, it blocks out the public from being able to do anything while they're doing their thing in the background for the database.
I'm seeing that on so many. I'm just clicking on random ones and it says registration, for this website is currently offline. Please check the bidding rules for availability.
Yeah, it could be real auction, could just be updating their software then and doing database updates or backups. It could be not the municipality, but the real auction service itself that's doing that. Let me see. Bernard's in Somerset. Let's take a look at them. No, they don't have anything even posted here yet, but yet they got an auction coming up. Let me look up my town, because I know my town recently did one. Let me look at the filters, and I'm going to put in there Linden. So let's see. Linden, Union County.
Teacher, are we close to our lunchtime or?
Yeah, we're time. This conversation really took up a lot because of the excitement of everybody here in this topic. Yeah, I understandably so. But yeah, yeah, they don't have anything up there now. They recently had an auction, but it's not even up there now. As you can see, the register of preview items, they recently had an auction, but yet it's currently not available. So it could be just that Real Auction is updating stuff and it's not available right now. Check back in a couple hours and it'll probably be available for you. All right. Yeah, let's finish this chapter up and then we'll take our lunch, even though we're taking it really late. Let me see where we at here. You know what? We'll just take the lunch right now. Income tax issues for home sellers. So we're not tax experts. We should not be giving people tax advice, but sometimes there's some information that we can give to our clients. So, we should often refer queries to accountants or attorneys when they're seeking expert advice on certain things. But both the federal and state government have capital gains tax exclusions from the profit of the sale of your primary residence. If you own that property for 2 out of the last 5 years before you sell it, single tax filers can get a $250,000 capital gains tax exclusion from the profit of up to $250,000 profit on the sale of your primary residence. And married couples who file their taxes jointly together, not separately, can qualify for up to a $500,000 capital gains tax exclusion on both state and federal income tax. So basically, if you sell your house for a profit of up to $250,000 or up to $500,000, you pay zero income tax on the profit of the sale of that property up to $250,000 profit or up to $500,000 profit. That's for your primary residence, if you lived in it for 2 out of the last 5 years. Now, if an owner lived in their house for less than 2 out of the last 5 years, the IRS may still allow you to take this deduction if you were forced to sell due to a hardship. And what does the IRS classify as a hardship? Job loss, job transfer, health reasons, death, divorce, or multiple births that may have caused you to have to relocate. Then you could still qualify for a capital gains tax exclusion. And how much is it for single filers?
2,500.
8,000.
And for married couples who filed their taxes jointly?
500,000.
And they had to live there for how long?
2 years.
2 out of the last 5 years.
Last 5 years, 2 out of last 5.
So any 2 years out of the last 5 years, they could have moved out 3 years ago, but they lived there for 2 years. So 2 out of the last 5 years, you would still qualify for this capital gains tax exclusion from your primary residence. So if you're young and you buy a house and you move in it so you could fix it up and flip it and sell it, if you lived in it for at least 2 years, now you go buy another house that you start fixing up, getting ready to fix it and flip it and all, and then you move into that house, you could keep reusing this, keep doing this, and pay 0 income tax on the profit of the sale of the house, up to $250,000 for single filers and up to $500,000 for married couples who file jointly. That's a big deal. That's a lot of savings.
Well,
all right?
good to know.
Now, that's not for investment properties. These are for your primary residences. Okay? Those are for your primary residences. Let me see if I got all this stuff in my notes.
Now, doesn't that have to be with, like, if your family is expanding, that you could?
Yeah, multiple births. Job loss, transfers, health reasons, death, divorce, or multiple births. Those are the reasons if you've been in it for less than 2 years before being forced to sell. You know, hey, you lost your job. You're forced to sell. I can't afford to continue making the payments on the house, but you sell the house at a profit, you pay 0 state or federal income tax on the profit of that sale. Or you're forced to transfer because your job is relocating you. They're transferring you to a different location. Well, you know, some things are beyond our control. So the IRS is not going to penalize you for that. They're still going to allow you to get that capital gains tax deduction. Okay? Yep. Sorry, let me shut my ringer off. All right. And first-time homebuyers, if we got first-time homebuyers as clients, we got to let them know they can make penalty-free withdrawals from their retirement plans towards the down payment of their first home from their retirement fund, IRA, 401k, for example. It's generally up to $10,000, but that money does need to be paid back, but you're just paying it back to yourself. You're paying it back to your own retirement plan. So it does need to be paid back with interest, but it's getting paid back to your own retirement plan. So it's like you're paying yourself back. But there's better ways to do it than this, you know, but either way, if you got a first-time home buyer, they're looking to purchase a home and they need money for the down payment to buy the home. Normally, if you early withdrawals from your retirement plans, you get killed in early withdrawals of from your retirement plans. You get killed in early taxes and penalties for early withdrawal from your retirement plan. So make sure that when your clients do this, that they contact their tax professional on how to go about doing this, so that they don't get hit with those early withdrawal fees and fines and penalties, which could be up to half the money that they're taking out. I'm telling you, it's like a major hit that they get. So it needs to be done properly if they're going to take this route to do it. Now, there's other ways to get money for the down payment and closing costs that I think are better options. But But this is just another tool in the toolbox for us to know how to give some guidance to our clients. Okay, it's good to have these different tools and knowledge of these things. So plus we need to know it for exams, so that's why I'm teaching you. You know, first time homebuyers can get early withdrawals from their retirement plans of up to $10,000 that are penalty free if they use it for the down payment of their first home. But they do need to pay the money back to their retirement plan. When they need to pay it back and all that details, I have no idea. They need to discuss that with their tax professionals. Okay. So you guys got these highlights and notes?
Yep.
Yeah. One more second, please. Okay, I'm good.
So that can be found under income tax issues for home sellers. It's the last two lines under that. Okay. We're done with this chapter. If you got that all now, we're done with this chapter and we could do the key terms to review. So there's only one key terms to review for chapter 8. So tax set according to value. What do we call a tax that is set according to the value of the property?
Ad valorem tax.
The ad valorem tax. One is A. That is correct. It actually means according to value. Then we have an estimate based on the probable sales price.
Probable sales price. And
Revaluation.
A full value assessment. A full value assessment. 5 is B. Used for taxation purposes.
Right.
What's the value?
Equalization factor?
What is the value of the tax man to determine your taxes?
assessed value.
Assessed value. For assessment variations.
Assessment variation. This is
Equalization factor. 4 is D. A list of all taxable properties in the municipality.
which one from your E list of all
Assessment roll.
Assessment roll. 3 is E. Time in which a foreclosed owner can regain property.
That is a redemption period.
Redemption period?
Yes, the redemption period. 8 is F. Collection of overdue taxes through public auction of the property.
And that is tax foreclosure.
Absolutely.
Tax sale.
Tax sale. 13 is G. 13 is G. A taxable property is referred to as.
No, you need 5 people, 5 pounds.
Taxable property.
Taxable property, that is referred to as what?
Revaluation.
What do we call a taxable property?
Ratable.
A retable?
A rateable. A
Rateable.
Seven-
Rateable.
Table, yeah.
A reassessment of all the municipalities' ratables.
Special assessment?
Revaluation.
It's a revaluation. 9 is I. Tax only on property that's directly benefiting from an improvement.
Special
That-
assessment.
Special assessment.
Assessment. 10 is J. 1/1000th of a dollar or a tenth of a cent.
Mill.
No.
The mill. 6 is K. Municipalities' financial claim against real property.
Tax lien.
The tax lien follows and seizing of property for unpaid tax.
Tax foreclosure.
Tax foreclosure.
Closure. 11 is M. And that concludes chapter 8.